I do believe we are live. I know it said 6:30 start, but a little bit delayed today. I apologize. Had to sort some things regarding my PC. My actual laptop screen stopped working, but the external screen works, so I've just had to fix that. So apologies on that side of things from me. In other news, we are coming in today with G2 versus FNATIC, the full best of 5. Gonna try and do this justice, and I'm also concerned that my shortcuts for Epic Pen aren't working, so there's that. It's also not been picked up, so okay, now it is. Okay, apologies, I am still trying to fix things. Cool, there we go. Anyway, no live cam today. I mean, I'm a bit all over the place, as you can tell. I also just want to stream, not have to worry about my look and appearance. So, game 1 of the best of 5, G2 versus FNATIC. And this is going to be an interesting one, because this is, I believe, the first time we're seeing G2 on red side. As throughout every single series, they've been on blue, as teams are favouring the blind pick against them, or because G2 have had side select. This series is actually quite interesting, as FNATIC have banned out Ashe, Trist and Braum. So they've removed safety in the Braum and taken away 2 of G2's big powerful picks this split. G2 themselves have banned the MF, which has been another one of Hamsammer's comfort picks, which leads you down the totem pole of available ADCs. You've got Zeri, you have AP if you want to go down that route, so the likes of Ziggs and stuff, but your options are quite limited in the pool. There's Smolder, Zeri and Ezreal, I think, are the big ones that have been played, and I'm mainly looking at MDK for that sort of route. The response here from G2 is probably to go for solo lanes, not solo lanes, side lanes and bot lane. I think mid and bot will probably get prio here. Corki is a strong pick for G2. It's something that Caps kind of relied on in the series against Fresskowy, and it became very much a power pick that was, no matter which side it went to, it seemed to win. G2 are actually prioritizing the Zyra here. That does surprise me. Brand's also up and available, but G2 putting preference on AP jungle early kind of does mean that they're probably going to set up for either a tank topside, the likes of Cassante that Broken Blade has gone to, Aatrox as another option for the more Bruiser-esque builds. I think they're more so looking to go for that. Renekton's an option, just to pair alongside this Zyra to give a bit more frontline to the lineup. Now, the response from FNATIC makes sense. You go for the Smolder here to guarantee your mid AD, and I mean, I'm not saying Oscarinin can't play the champion, but it doesn't seem like a top lane Smolder angle, especially when you lock into Leona. Leona provides subtle lockup that is going to be very useful for FNATIC, in the fact that it'll give the Ezreal static targets to Mystic Shot down, True Shot barrage hits. All these reliant skill shots are going to have an easier time when you've got a Leona by your side. G2 finalize their first rotation of picks with the Kalista It's solid. It does lead to more so the engage heavy supports. Blitzcrank, Alistar, Nautilus, Rel. All things that you typically see paired alongside this Kalista. Obviously, FNATIC well aware of what G2 typically play in that role. The Rel is Mickey's go-to currently in this playoffs. I mean, he's played Nautilus to a fantastically amazing KDA. If you want to know what I mean by that, look up his stats on GOL and see how bad his KDA is on Nautilus. So, first pick of the second rotation, Rakan comes through for G2. They wanted engage. Alistar is very one-dimensional in terms of he goes in and that's about it. So G2 going for the Rakan here in 4 allows for the ability to protect the rest of the team while also providing a considerable amount of engage. Now, FNATIC round out their comp with Sedge Kennen. They've got the front line there with the Leona and Sejuani, and it's now the added burst of the Kennen. It's a lot, to be honest. It's very much a lot of damage that will be poking and harassing down G2, who, as a whole, their front line is very reliant on the Mundo to be stood in front of the opposition and tanking up that initial poke and harassment. Now, obviously, Mundo past a certain point becomes very bulky and very hard to kill. And so, once that point's hit, I think that FNATIC will start to struggle. However, Smolder, obviously, the way that his execute works has changed drastically in terms of it's not a ever-growing static execute percentage that always grows the more stacks you get. That's changed, and instead it just becomes, I think, max percentage health, I believe, on the enemy. Either way, it's changed drastically, and I think that Mundo as a whole, the amount of health he has will probably get whittled down quite quickly by the Smolder, just based off how it works. But the first game of our best of 5 to decide who takes home the LEC trophy is underway. And we're going to probably see the very, very standard rollouts. The fan of 5 are already being shown by FNATIC. And I expect standardized lanes. Maybe a lane swap from the Kalista Rakan into the Kennen to punish Kennen, really. Because Kennen's early game isn't the worst. Obviously, with the energy bar instead of a mana bar, it's very easy to kind of trade through minions and kind of get an advantage. As for Broken Blade, obviously trading health for push. I'm probably going to say that that favors the Kennen in that matchup, but over time it'll probably even out to a state where Mundo's too tanky to be killed off. He'll be gaining grasp stacks. I think he'll probably go Heartsteel to get them proccing as well. So realistically, a lot of health on this Mundo for Broken Blade. That being said, very squishy early on, and you could see a punish coming out from the Sejuani and Kennen to knock him down. Take a look at runes and items. Cool start for the Kennen. We were discussing basically its early game control for the Kennen in top lane, in terms of the fact that range versus melee, and although I do see Mundo being quite susceptible to being bursted out, it's just not that easy in the early game, because you're reliant on kind of destroying his passive, which is a hard thing to do on a Kennen because you're reliant on a static proc to get it. Now, getting early wave push here is Oscarinin, and I'm just looking at Razor's path. He's gonna full clear to the bot side, it appears, and that will typically allow for a scuttle into maybe scuttle top side into gank top. It depends really how aggressive Oscarinin gets with the push. And already, just looking at where the wave state is, he's already pushed it up. And that kind of leads me to believe that he's going to have that now crash back into him, which will set up the play at level 3. Now, mid lane, Caps has already taken a considerable amount of damage. Obviously, he has the fleet footwork to heal up a little bit and get back to a healthier state, also with the biscuits. So, here's the annoying thing. That is spotted. And although Yike now has walked over the ward, FNATIC are well aware of Yike's position due to the plant spawning that. So they play it safe, give over wave control to G2. As Broken Blade's getting chunked out quite heavily topside. This is the weakness of the Mundo. Just look at Razor's pathing. He's full cleared bot side. Didn't contest this scuttle. Instead, he's gone from there up to top side. And that is the smart play, because now Broken Blade's TP back. And although he has flash, he is susceptible to a gank. And losing out on a considerable amount of CS. Whether or not FNATIC will punish is a different story, but it's also why we are starting to see Yike path up here, to kind of provide a bit of cover for his top laner. Razor obviously up here as well, so the potential play could come through. Now, I don't think it will, as if G2 get push on the bot side. This is where things get a little bit interesting, as just the fact that there's no vision control here for Broken Blade, so if he steps further forward, he's going to get punished. Using the cleaver there, chunking away his health, just meant go time for Oscar, and that was a pretty easy setup. And I'm glad that we kind of covered how this has actually happened, because we discussed how essentially Cannon secured early push, crashed it into the tower, wave crashes back, and Broken Blade's susceptible to a gank, because A, he hasn't got TP, and B, it's Mundo. He doesn't really have escape tools by his passive. Now, Oscarinin overstayed there, and that's a bad thing, as G2's response was already in play with Hans and Mickey taking the early reset in the bot lane, because bear in mind, we already discussed the fact that Hans and Mickey already pushed out their wave into tower and took resets. That was inevitable for them to be back out onto the map and making plays. So, back under the tower, 3v1, Mundo obviously has the passive, wait for the Q from Leona to trigger it. And once that happens, it means Mundo gets, well, he's susceptible to stuns. The good thing for him is he hit level 6, so he can pop the passive heal that you get from that. The issue is, Caps has gone way too far. The Valkyrie out is not enough to get him away from Oscarinin, as the Everfrost roots him down. And that is an easy second kill to the Rat in the top lane. Now, G2, while they're losing lives on the map, they aren't losing out necessarily on objectives. Hand is punishing by securing plates by himself. FNATIC unable to do so, but we get to watch this play again on bot side. So, the initial play, obviously Broken Blade still has flash, that's the big thing. Once his Q gets procced, he can use his flash if needed. And once the Zenith Blade comes through, he's able to do so, because the CC chain from FNATIC is non-existent from there. So he can just get away. Good Q stun from the cannon to deny Caps an escape. And yeah, pretty clean execute from FNATIC there to punish Caps' roam down to protect his carry. Or top laner. Because Mundo's not really a carry, is he? He's just there to absorb the damage. Now, this stage of game kind of benefits G2 a little bit with the fact that you've got the Kennen matching up into Kalista. And this is something G2 are trying to do. They're trying to get the advantaged Kennen into their advantage lane so it's even. So this slicing Maelstrom play, Fate's Call used, it's an easy setup because Kalista can get the stacks, Mickey tanks the tower, it's easy. That is a well executed play from G2. And it's just utilizing timings. So you go in with the Rakan, W through, burn the slicing Maelstrom, True Shot Barrage. It's not an angle to get the kill. But yeah, it probably would have only burned a shield on the Rakan as well, so it wasn't really going to be effective. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is the engage and execution there by G2 was very well worked in the fact that they're trying to get this Kennen into the matchup that benefits them, into the Kalista, because it can't win. In a straight up 2v2, everyone has everything. Kennen won't win. 2v1, I should say. So G2 utilize that strength, translate it down into a play, and get themselves another kill on Hans Sama, who is sitting quite nicely with the Vamp Scepter and the recurve bow. I'm assuming he's going to go Bork with them two items. And so that's going to allow for the extra attack speed and the auto attack healing. Now Mickey playing on the edge here. 4 members of MD. I keep wanting to say MDK. It's FNATIC on this bottom side map. And they're trying to set up a play for, well, killing Hans Sama. He is the strong side of the map. 800 gold over Noah. And decently small CS lead, but it's a decent one to say the least. And this is G2 actually leveraging lane brio. So, because the fact that mid lane's pretty even, they're just farming. I mean, you can see the gold difference here. It's marginal. So they're even, but because G2's bot side map is pushing in, they leverage their bot lane's pressure to secure the Drake. And I'm looking at the timer, 15 seconds until Void Grubs, and we're in a weird state. Now Razork obviously looking for a play onto Caps. Mum gets called. Caps is down, but with Caps being down, Humanoid really should obviously push out there and then roam up here. Join up with Razork and secure Grubbies to deny the 6 stack that G2 are trying to build up for themselves. Now that being said, due to the fact that Broken Blades got push, which is surprising, I expected Kennen to have control. Basically G2 get 6 grubs. And that's kind of due to the fact that Humanoid took a reset instead of contesting. And while I don't disagree with his maneuver, it hasn't led to an advantage for FNATIC. Now, this is Caps utilizing the pressure that Yike has in this river and getting an escape. But in all honesty, if FNATIC contested grubs, that would have meant basically Caps couldn't step up because the river would have been FNATIC's. So G2 would have to have A, cleared out, or B, lost Caps. That's it. And I think that is a pretty prevalent thing to be looking at, considering the fact that right now the game state is fairly even. And although there's gold leads in certain areas of the map, like bot side, there's a drastic one. it sort of evens out with the top side. And the interesting thing, though, I've been seeing over the past couple of minutes is Broken Blade's actually got the pressure in over the cannon. And he's pushing in for turret plates as Jun not going to be hit by the strangled roots, instead going to be hit up by the quickness and the grand entrance. Klissa's stacking in these spears. The Ren's going to be able to secure the kill. And Noah gets away barely with his life. And G2, they get a kill. A simple-ish play for the G2 lineup as they run down the support of FNATIC. And that's something that we've seen recently, is Jun being quite susceptible to being punished for his positioning. And G2, utilizing their vision, are able to secure the pick and then translate that into some turret plating in the top side of the map. No one on FNATIC willing to TP up there. Noah just roams back up. And yeah, that's the extent of the play. G2 gaining gold while not necessarily losing it, but FNATIC certainly aren't matching it. And so, as first items start to complete, we get to kind of take stock of how this game is shaping up. With Herald on the board right now, and I mean 7-5 turret plating, G2 getting an advantage, that's actually a big investment there from Razork, using the Glacial Prison early to try and force Caps back or chunk him out, and then whiffing it means that FNATIC kind of have to give up A, top tower, and B, Herald, because they've got no way to reliably engage and lock down carries bar the Solar Eclipse. And even then, you're trying to lock down a Callista who can jump away. This is essentially forfeit because you wasted your ultimate. That's the best way to look at it. So, let's how is this looking? To be honest, FNATIC trying to set up for this Drake, baiting G2 in, 3 members of G2 down here. Mundo on top side got TP. Mum's gonna be used. Triangle Films lands onto Jun, and this Leandri's burn gonna slowly tick away at the health bar. Yike's gonna drop Herald, and I'm gonna actually take a pause here. This is something he does several times during this series, and I don't know why is the extent, because I get that. So the point is, I get that you've got all of FNATIC in one area, but the issue is, well, I get that that's in all areas, so Herald gets to walk scot-free down to the lane and not really be affected. So that's why you do it. But in this situation, all that's really... Actually, no. Think about it. Herald used to be used for turret plating, but because of how timings work now, and the Herald no longer being during Herald turret plating time, you're essentially getting a just free crash of a tower. And I mean, turret plate damage wise, you're just trying to do as much damage to the tower as possible. Now, obviously right now we don't really care about that fight, but in actuality, it's actually quite smart how to use it. Dropping it early allows for a escape route, in theory. If you want a carry to escape, they just get in Herald and coast around to like safety around there and up. But it also has a knock-up ability, and you're untargetable in it. So in theory, you could run down the cannon with the Herald. There's a lot of smartness and intricacies about Herald now that you don't think of initially when it was introduced. Because like, the massive change that G2 also do with Herald is they give it to Caps, so that he can sit in side lanes and push towers down and have the safety of and the knowledge that he can just get in Herald and not really be stopped and punished. It's essentially a humanoid tool, and that I think FNATIC would benefit the most from, is utilizing Herald in a similar way by giving it to humanoid, because the man gets caught out in sides. Like, that is his bread and butter in League, getting caught in sides. So if they did that with it, I think that would be beneficial. And whether or not they do when we go into Worlds is a different story. But yeah, Herald's going to walk down to the bot side and probably going to get a free and easy charge. G2 secured a Drake. Now, I'm going to pause here and talk about positioning, because this game, obviously, this is a VOD review. We're analysing it. We don't normally do this, but Broken Blade right now is man marking Oscar Rinnan. Can't see it on the screen. It's actually down here by the on the minimap. Look at the rest of FNATIC, grouped up as 4. G2 have actually done not a good job here in securing vision in the pit and around the Drake. It's very shallow in terms of G2's vision. And I mean, yeah, they've basically got a J. There's nothing here behind. So, in actuality, it's very easy for Oscar Rinnan to get close and then be spotted last second. However, due to the way Broken Blade is playing, he is bodyguarding his team and not giving a route in for Oscar Rinnan, which is the smart option because you do not want a slicing maelstrom on top of your carries. Now, this issue right now is G2 are kind of clumped together, so it becomes quite easy for A, Leona, and B, the little rattle E to come hit their team. Whether or not FNATIC engage like that is a different thing, because they are grouped up as 4. You've got Humanoid, who very easily at this stage can just kill Hans Sammer. I say easily. It's a close 1v1 at this stage of the game. It's just, I'd say 9 times out of 10, I'd favour the team that can collapse quicker onto the play. Which I think in this situation, the amount of CC, it would favour FNATIC. Anyway, we continue forward. Just an immediate poke away and chip down of Hans Sam's health bar. Broken Blade's actually walking into lane. G2 trying to get the crash through the Herald, which would secure tier 1. Broken Blade's going to mount up. Instead of going for it, Strangleform goes wide. And here comes the Herald. This is the knock-up play that we were talking about. Utilizing the Herald to get a knock-up. It's so easy to do. And because of the fact that G2 are playing tempo with this Herald rather than escape, they're certainly getting advantages out of this play. And this is something that when we look at the likes of T1 do exceptionally well. It is transition one play into the next. Now, we'll get a chance to probably break down T1 games at Worlds this year. I'm in fact pretty sure we will. As Razor's getting poked down here, incredibly tanky, going to use the Glacial Prism and he's still alive. That Aftershock doing a lot of work. But here comes Oscar Rinin landing the perfect slicing Maelstrom. It's 2 quick kills over to FNATIC. And they get some summoners to boot as well. But this is a good punish. And the issue with G2's comp. Early game, their damage is quite low. And you're very reliant on this Corki to be your upfront burst. The rest of your team has more so damage over time. So, just look how quickly Razork's health bar does not melt. He's incredibly tanky, and he doesn't die. He does use his Glacial Prism very late, but that's on the exit, so that he guarantees his Aftershock to proc as he's getting out, and that is a clean way to utilize it, and it allows him to get away with his life. And then the collapse from the rest of FNATIC comes through. Oscar Rinin gets more kills, and G2 are in this situation where now they're having to play a bit more on the back foot because FNATIC are reaching their power points. Cannon, presumably building Shadow Flame, could be Deathcap, could be Seeker's Arm Guard. I think Seeker's Arm Guard is the more optimal. And yeah, that's a very burst heavy cannon being set up. The rest of their comp, obviously, you've got the Zeeks on the Sejuani to provide the slow and really the avenue for the Smolder to stack up his passive. Now, this as a whole allow G2 to play a bit more defensive because they're fearful of it, but it's also more so baitive style. And it's interesting here that Broken Blade was actually allowed to get tier 2 in the bot side of the map, as it just means and makes it a little harder for FNATIC to defend. As bot side, Slicing Maelstrom's going to come through. Broken Blade's still alive, pops the ulti, so he's going to get a massive chunk of health back. Glacial Prism lands, but the passive shield comes through for Broken Blade, and he flashes the wall to get to safety. The Humanoid cannot chase, and Broken Blade gets out alive with his health bar, which is just going to tip-top back up, and he can stay out on the map thanks to Warmogs. Now that situation, due to the fact that it's a failed play onto Broken Blade, G2 have gone boom, 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 got this Callista thing here, and they've garnered so much vision in this topside map, it makes it a death trap for FNATIC to step into. Now, with the fact that they're actually doing their due diligence to clear it out, FNATIC are kind of ceding pressure in the bot side map now. And this is that tug and pull that G2 like to do. They push you out on one side of the map, and then once you get pulled in, they push through the other side of the map and secure control that way. Now, right now, I'm actually surprised that Mickey and Caps are topside, as Drake's on the table, and Mickey's going to die immediately, and Oscar Rinin, he's getting paid. That TPN was perfect as the Slicing Maelstrom secures kills, and Humanoid gets a double. And it's on the topside map. 3 members down on G2. They're going to transition this into the Baron here, FNATIC. It's a misplay more than anything from G2. It's a massive misplay. Sure, Hans Sammer's going to get paid and get more and more gold over Noah, but it's still a bad play in G2's eyes, because no way should they have 3 members top when sole points on the table bot. It's just an outright misplay. And yeah, take a look at it. Mickey's caught. Caps has no mana, so he's dead. Double TP comes through, and this is the issue. I don't think Broken Blade needed to TP. You should have been aware that there's 4 members coming up. Or 3 members topside already. You've lost your support. That TP came in way too late. If G2 wanted to defend it. And even then, you've not got your damage dealers. Caps was out of mana. And let's be honest, Corki's heavily reliant on mana. So, no mana means no fight. And G2 have to seed Baron, and that gold graph has just pivoted on a dime in favor of FNATIC here, who are going to utilize this Baron to secure some outer towers. But with that all said and done, surprisingly, the gold's still quite even. Only about a 700 gold lead for FNATIC. As G2 kind of have done good this game to kind of mitigate the leads that FNATIC would naturally have. It's 8-4 in kills, by the way, and it's this close. It really does tell you how crazy game number 1 is so far. And how effective these two teams are at punishing each other's mistakes. With this Baron, FNATIC have actually pushed through into this topside river and jungle and have started to secure some vision. Humanoid is doing a lot of damage here on this Smolder. But G2 aren't overstepping. Broken Blade gonna just top his health bar up with Warmogs. So he can just stand back up in front of the tower and not allow the minions to hit it. You've also got the Zyra plant to do work. That's a very early Solar Flare, but look how much of Yike's health bar has been chunked here. He's going to be forced to back. And FNATIC doing work here. Especially in this in this stage of the game, to start to push an advantage that they've garnered for themselves. As realistically speaking, G2 fumble in the bag as Razork on a chase, gonna get the flash out here from Broken Blade. And that's a pretty useful tool for G2. Broken Blade kind of relies on that flash to get on top of targets. And with it down, it's going to be quite hard for Mundo to basically do much in the team fight. He's just going to be a meat sponge, and that's about it. Even then, he's not got the most resistances right now. Only his Mercury boots and the chainmail vest. Everything else is just health, and that doesn't really do much in terms of resisting the damage. Either way, FNATIC doing their job. Gonna start to push out the waves, and the battle for mid lane continues. 30 seconds-ish till Drake, till Soul if G2 get it, and we're probably going to be due another Barney. I know my chair's making a lot of noise, I apologise, but I need to get comfy for this because this series is already getting explosive. So FNATIC have started to push in mid to get control, and G2 are controlling the river. The issue for G2 is the Scuttle Crab is in control of FNATIC. TP flank coming in from Oscar Rinin. Don't know if he was spotted. And Caps gets hit immediately by Razork. The Slicing Maelstrom comes through and gets the kill onto Mickey. The Fate's Call not going to be useful enough to keep him alive. And Hans is burning down. Humanoid secures that shutdown, and G2, it's 3 members against 5. Can they defend? Because Soul has been denied from them. Humanoid gonna land slow onto Yike. G2 actually just trying to cut the wave. Caps steps forward. Gets hit by a Q from Humanoid. It's not gonna kill him, but it certainly puts his health below. And Humanoid in this stage of the game is doing a lot of damage. Let's be honest, this Smolder, very effective. Just looking, he has got enough for his execute procs. But we take a look at this fight again. TP flank comes through from Oscarinin, and it's just Razor buying time, forcing G2 into this awkward situation. Mickey gets killed, but because Hand is kind of in this place here where he's stuck there, gets tagged by 1Q from Humanoid, and he just burns down. It's a pretty easy kill. And FNATIC get to secure Drake off the back of it. And G2 sent back to the drawing board. It's amazing to see the fact that this Zyra is doing a lot of damage. Though, it does hurt to see the Callista doing minimal. And I think it does kind of have something to do with the build. Obviously, Bulk really being the only damage item that you've got on this Callista right now. No IE, no Bloodthirster. Nothing really there for actual attack damage. So, you're heavily reliant on Caps to do damage here. I think it's just an issue of items right now for G2. 3 items complete, but they're not the damaging ones that the carries need to kind of burst through these carries. Because let's be honest, look at what Sedge has. A lot of protection, a lot of armor, and Caps really can't do much. Jun's already got a Warmog, so he doesn't really care too much about damage with the W procs, so he's going to be resisting quite a bit. And now we start to get this little dance around Baron. G2, minimalistic vision in here. No wards in the actual pit that aren't being denied. So FNATIC can start to step up. G2 managed to get a pick onto Jun here, overstepping, and now G2 can look to turn. The quickness is going to be popped, and the immediate engage comes through. Humanoid's going to be jumped on. The red attack going to flap him over the wall, but he's unable to escape. It's going to be a 2-for-2 trade so far in this extended fight, but G2 come out on top with 3 members down on FNATIC. Simply put, one misstep forward and that results in a pick. Then it becomes 4v5. 4v5 somehow becomes 4v3. And then 3v4. It basically becomes really hard for FNATIC to fight. And we watch this again. Jordan's just way too far forward. He Zenith Blades in, but that's the wrong decision there. Immediately ran down. Mickey sees the angle, flashes on top of Humanoid. The damage is landing. Caps goes over the wall to secure it. And it's straight into Oscarinin slicing Maelstrom, which is why FNATIC get 2 kills. The issue is, in that play, G2 got the extra one. And that's resulted in a Baron over to G2. Which kind of stagnates this game a little bit more. That in itself isn't the worst thing in the world for G2. It allows for Mundo to build up more resistances. It allows for Mickey to start getting a a couple of items into his back pocket. And G2 also get more chances at securing Soul. I don't think they're going to necessarily contest this one, because obviously they've got Baron. They could realistically just let this one go and push waves, which they're kind of doing with the fact that Caps has freely pushed in and secured the inhibitor tower on the top side of the map and the inhibitor. So G2 have kind of utilized some fake pressure around the objective, which has basically forced FNATIC to be cautious of a steal. And while they've done that, Caps has just utilized the fact he's got TP and can join up whenever, and just pushed freely for the tower and inhib. G2 have then put a bit of pressure back down onto FNATIC so they can't back, so they're forced to run back to base. It's a simple play that utilizes your early game advantages, which I wasn't really expecting to be talking about with G2's comp. G2's comp kind of blooms more so late game than early, so due to the fact that it's now this late gamers, Caps has just got deleted. Noah and Skrenin gonna find a pick. Broken Blade now, getting tanked up, slowed by the Solar Eclipse, and he's now in front of FNATIC. Force a flash, but the collapse is coming through. FNATIC are looking to fight this. 5 members present. The quickness is going to be flashed out here by Humanoid, and that should be the demise of G2. The health bars are burning. Noah securing 2, and Broken Blade forced to run away, but he's going to turn and burn to his death. G2 are deleted from the rift, and was spinning once again on that dime into a FNATIC favored game state. So I still haven't seen how Caps dies, because in all honesty, in that situation he shouldn't be punished. So I'm gonna go back several seconds to before even this, to the picture-in-picture, just to see how Caps dies. So give me the P by P. It's just mid. Caps has over pushed, it seems. Flash slicing Maelstrom. Mystic shot lands. Kill secured by Noah. Yeah. Overstep by Caps. And that's resulted in him falling. Then the collapse through comes in from FNATIC. And G2 are punished on the rift. So actually, this is the replay. Yeah, Caps is just being greedy for the wave. He wants to secure push, but gets tagged by the slicing Maelstrom, stunned up. Mystic Shock secures it. Yeah, pretty simple overall for FNATIC in that sense of the play. They don't really throw too much at him. They just use the ulties, get the pick, and then 4v3. Well, this situation is a 4v3 in favor of G2, but once the collapse comes in and the fact that G2 are on full retreat, it's doom. The flash out from the Rakan engage spelt the demise of G2 in that fight. And yeah, like it or not, FNATIC back in control of this game. And it's surprising to say, considering how close it is in the goal, but kill score wise, FNATIC have been ahead since probably minute 1. G2 have been kind of very resilient in their style here, because they shouldn't really be in this game. It's the objective control they've had that's kind of led them to this state where they've pushed waves, secured towers, and got early enough objectives that they're still relevant. The issue for them is maintaining the relevancy, as you've got Death Cap completed for Oscar Rinin, so he's got enough burst air in that initial Slicing Maelstrom to probably kill Caps or Hansama if they're fully caught in and not going to be protected by the Rakat. So G2 are gonna need a miracle here to kind of match FNATIC, and it looks like they're probably gonna go for it. A early Baron rush. True Shot Barrage gonna spot this one out. Mum's gonna be thrown across. I'm gonna tag Hansama, but Baron is secured by G2. Mickey already down as he was pulled to safety by the Fate's Call, but it isn't enough. Instead, what we're gonna see is Hansama deleted from the rift as Humanoid just flapped over the wall to secure the GA proc. Slicing Maelstrom out here. Caps is hunting for the kill. The rockets are gonna land. Oscar Rinning's gonna fall. The back not gonna be denied, as that's gonna be FNATIC opening up their own inhibitor this game. G2 committing heavily for the play. Will they be punished? 2 members alive. Caps and Yike trying to defend the base. Mickey's respawned. G2 aren't gonna lose the game just yet. Instead, we've got a soul fight for either team. Broken Blade's TP'd on the flank, was on the wave. FNATIC are aware of his position, but it's too late. Soul gonna be secured here by... It's not even Soul. Drake secured by FNATIC. And now they're running. Razork gonna stay alive, but look at the health bars just being deleted by the Smolder. But the Smolder gets caught. Humanoid deleted. Mickey will be traded back though, and now FNATIC on the run. Broken Blade standing in front of them, trying to get the kills. But it's not gonna be any more bloody. It's a 1-for-1 trade that favors G2 as just the main damage dealer from FNATIC has been taken off the board. Oscar Reddin's gonna be spotted. G2 should be aware. That's why they're pathing to the bot side. They're not gonna overstay their welcome. Battle for mid lane's gonna start up once again, and we can actually have a bit of a respite. It's been very all action as mid lane, Broken Blade forced to flash out the Solar Flare, and now G2 are in this awkward situation. Broken Blade's health bar just being deleted, but Oscar Rinnins goes before his as Caps secures the first kill of the fight. FNATIC forced to run again as G2 are hunting. The W's from Smolder continuing to land, doing a lot of work, but FNATIC aren't gonna overstay their welcome. Instead, G2 return to side. Ice set on the inhibitors. FNATIC FNATIC are in that awkward situation right now where you kind of need to do something, because G2's carries are getting very strong. It's just quite difficult to match them, and although G2 don't really have the same protection engage tools that FNATIC do, G2 are just utilizing caps on sides right now to basically just keep FNATIC at bay. And it's just a nuisance sort of style. Because look right now, Caps is going bot side to push out and contest for this. The rest of his team's just hovering mid to control mid wave. He knows full well he can get out with TP. And as well as that, he's got protection from Mickey right now. So, if anything, FNATIC are going to struggle to kind of do much here. The mid-wave battle can be answered here by Yike using the plants to just destroy it. But due to the fact that MDK group up as 5 and are trying to crash into base, G2 is actually underprepared for the defense. So recalls come through. It's a 5v5, but MDK respect the fact that G2 took the backs and are just gonna go out, leave the base. They're not gonna overstay their welcome. They're trying to force G2 into a mistake. So the other issue is, though, for FNATIC, the longer they hover around here, Caps is already going to the top side to push out the wave. Bot wave's already pushing in favor of G2. So, as it stands, FNATIC are in this situation where they're losing. Now, sure, objectives are on the table, and Baron's a big one. But Soul's on the table in 15 seconds, and both teams want that. The good thing is for FNATIC, they have control down towards the bottom side map. G2 will need to invest some like heavy vision clearing to get there. However, FNATIC are more conscious about the Baron. They're going to secure the scuttle grab, so that's a huge thing. G2 have sent members to the bot side map. Hans is going to start it. Mickey tanks up the Glacial Prism. And FNATIC can't contest this. The rent stacks have just been built up here. Hans is going to secure this. And Soul's secured by G2. Topside map, Cabs has pushed out the wave. It's going to crash into the inhibitor. TP out to safety. Obviously, the issue for him is no vision. Does surprise me he actually invested TP there. But doesn't get the inhibitor. Which, if he did get it, that would have been huge because that's just free pressure for G2. Now, he is going to start to push bot side, which has been matched by Humanoid. And that's a big thing to note because Humanoid's the main damage dealer for FNATIC in this situation. Oscarinin does work and bursting people out, but I'd say at this stage it's the Humanoid show. If he's unable to be at the fight, G2 are probably going to do much better in it and probably win it. Baron's going to be started, Broken Blade walks over the Scuttle Crab, so FNATIC are aware. Blue Trick Kick going to be used, and Razor going to be denied entry into the pit. But that's a massive slicing maelstrom landing onto the 4 members of G2 as Oscarinin burning down to Yike. The plant's doing work, and G2 are starting to get back into this game. The kill's still drastically in favor of FNATIC. That was also a 4v5, I think. Might have been a 4v4. But either way, FNATIC are starting to stagnate in this game. Gold means pretty much nothing, as items are fully complete on the carries. both the Smolder and Ezreal for FNATIC full build. Just looking at the cannon, pretty close to full build, if not at it. I don't know if that's a Zhonya's or a Seeker's armbar card. But yeah. Still does work. He does have TP. There is no deep TP ward for FNATIC. Instead, just gonna be joining up with his team. MDK, fucking hell, I keep doing it. It's not MDK, it's FNATIC. FNATIC have just been denied and kind of suffocated back now to their base. So Jun's not really been able to get out and play Steep Vision to allow Frost Grinning to make a play. But in the same avenue, do you want to be making a play right now? I think you would. Deep TP flank, crush the G2 in this 3v3 in the bot side. Absolutely, that would be the most optimal play. The issue is you don't have that option. So Jun really is trying to get out there, but he can't. He realizes that G2 have secured vision all across his bot side river. Sorry, map. As TP comes through, Broken Blade's rejoining up with his team, and the damage is going to be put down. Jun taken to below 50% HP, but FNATIC are favourable here. They've got the fountain behind them to top their health bars up. G2 still quite healthy. Jun gonna heal up with the Warmogs, and now the reset of the fight can begin. Like it or not, it's a push-pull state of game. The FNATIC win out in this situation. G2 trying to utilize the last drips and drabs of the Baron to get push, but a lot of damage is being put down onto them. Caps especially. Solar Flare glows wide. That's a lot of ultis down on FNATIC's side. The engage tools are gone. G2 need to play a bit more reserved, because they're winning out slowly here. Caps can be jumped on. No, we're not able to get the kill. That's going to be the wild... Massive slicing Maelstrom going to force Mickey out as Noah gets on the backside and kills off Caps. Leona goes in and they've caught out Yike. That's both big damage dealers of G2 caught out. Hansama and Noah 1v1ing, but it's no longer that. Broken Blade's on the backside trying to get kills, but he's being run down. Humanoid doing work, but the Nexus towers are falling. G2 are winning the game without even being there. Their members have been defeated, but FNATIC are still barely surviving this game. Broken Blade gonna use that Warmogs to allow him to stay around a bit longer. Hans topped his health bar back up with the Bloodthirster. And we're at that stage of the game where Elder is up for grabs. It's a weird one. It's a weird one, because it's been such a yo-yo-y type of game that it's interesting. It's explosive, and G2 are going to get an uncontested Elder. Razork's nowhere near this. He's in fact just defending the waves. G2 have done enough. Cracking open all 3 inhibitors is just a nightmare to deal with. So that's going to be Elder secured for G2. With 50 seconds until Baron, they could kind of overlap these buffs and have a strong enough push to kind of win this one in the face of FNATIC. Elder secured. G2 have 5 members buffed up. Razork on the wrong side of the map. Gonna be ran at as Humanoid over pushed, and he is now going to be caught out, jumped on, and Sama shuts him down, and G2 are looking to end this one here. 3 members deleted off the rift, and FNATIC running for their lives. Noah's caught in his base, exhausted to his demise. G2 win game 1 in this absolute banger of a match. I wish this was just a regular season matchup and we got flipping so many more of these, because that game was so topsy-turvy that in the end it came down to utilities in what each team had at that point. And with the fact that FNATIC had to seed pressure, had to seed a Baron, G2 utilized it to crush open the inhibitors, which kind of put the coffin doors shut on FNATIC, because they couldn't leave their base. They were stuck in that one area, and G2 punished, got Elder, secured the game, and when you tried to escape the coffin like Humanoid did, it just cost them. Caught out inside, 1 or 2 members there. It's an easy 5 claps on by G2, which led to an, I'd say, a comfortable closeout to game number 1 for G2. Even though it wasn't a clean game. So, game 2. We come in with the idea of FNATIC keeping G2 on red. It's surprising. The first time we see G2 on red side this entire season finals, and it was close. So FNATIC quite clearly can say, well, no one's really done that to G2 bar MDK, so yeah, there's that. Give me a second. So, let's get into game 2. I just need to quickly sort something there, so apologies about that. Game 2, we see a little bit of shake-up already with the draft. FNATIC have removed the Callista as that utility engage tool and protection tool for essentially G2 support. And this change-up allows for basically their picks to still come through. Ezreal, Smolder, Corki on G2 side. I think G2 probably should change up absolutely nothing. Except the Zeri. Obviously, Zeri Corki makes sense. I think FNATIC have the chance here to just take Zyra. Zyra Smolder 2-3. Or a massive counter to the Zyra or Brand And Ivan, I think, is a good one here. I think Smolder Ivan, just to deal with G2, is pretty nice. Having the Daisy to kind of walk in and do work is certainly nice. Instead of prioritizing the Rel, which is a decent option, I'd say. Obviously, they banned it game number 1 instead, as it was kind of G2's bread and butter during their previous few series, and it's certainly very much a comfort pick. Now, the fact is, Rakan comes through here for Mickey, and this just leads me to believe that G2 are kind of wanting to just protect as well as engage. Like, the Braum was up, and that's kind of a good pick into Ezreal Smolder, because you deny so much of the like Q damage that can be put down, the skill shots that can be used are just very hard to utilize if there's a Braum in the game. So I'm actually surprised they went Rakan here. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad pick. We obviously have already seen it used to some success here in game number 1. Though I wouldn't say it was the defining factor in G2's win. Now, FNATIC obviously realised issues from game number 1 was the fact that Mundo was incredibly hard to kill. So they banned him out. They also banned out Yikes Zyra. So I'm thinking this is just a brand angle. Lock in the brand, and you kind of have the same sort of effect that Zyra had. Instead, we get a Gwen. Now, this is a weird pick, because it is jungle. And essentially Gwen jungle, obviously Snip Snip, very good tool at clearing things. The amount of damage it does is quite prevalent, but FNATIC going with the Ivan, and I'm not sure how the interaction works with Daisy and Gwen, because if Gwen's in the Twilight Shroud, does that allow Ivan to have Daisy hit Gwen? I don't know. I think it has to be with him in range, but I don't know. It's a weird one. Someone may be able to answer that. But we can finally talk about the full comps. K'Sante into Poppy. I mean, just K'Sante things, innit? Clearly the guy that had to sign for fair play, don't pick K'Sante, isn't going to be happy, because in comes the pretty bulky top laner that's not really going to be threatened by the Poppy in the early game, because they're both just tanky. They're just going to stack up health against one another. It's a top matchup that means absolutely nothing in the context of the laning phase. Instead, I think we're going to be focusing maybe our attention a bit more into Humanoid. As game 1, he was certainly there. Very much a very powerful boy in terms of damage throughout the entire game. And he silently got there, to be honest. Now, don't get me wrong, he was kind of the ending reason as to why FNATIC lost. But in actuality, he was the reason they were probably at that stage of winning. So, onto the Rift yet again. Fans of 5 across the board, as both teams go for it. Standard starts. Nothing out the ordinary just yet. I'm just looking to see if we'll get standard lanes. Ruins. Nothing out the ordinary. Guardian Rakan. So more of the protective team Rakan rather than the protective, I'm going to go in, have a bit of resistance to go in and guarantee the charm onto everyone. It's the Guardian to protect his carry. So, taking a standardized start from both teams. Jun not gonna get too much gain from that sweeper, as G2 haven't actually dropped any wards, bar Mickey. Now, the thing that FNATIC have actually done is secured a ward onto the blue buff. So, it's a prevalent thing, because Gwen's very, I'd say, mana-reliant early game, with the fact that you're relying on your snip to clear out minions. So, getting the Q stacks up, pretty prevalent. And having the ward on the blue buff makes so much sense, because you typically expect the Gwen to start there, so at her full clear she's got enough mana to do it and continue to clear it. Now, that isn't the case in this situation, and instead it's actually a match sort of wardage situation where both the Ivan and the Gwen have had their clears kind of spotted. So, FNATIC and G2 fairly even in their pathing. Gwen's going to be spotted clearing out the wolves. FNATIC can quickly just look at the tab board to see that the CS that Yike has got, how far into the clear he is. And granted, he does show on the ward eventually. It doesn't really matter too much, as Razor's actually well aware that the amount of CS he has should allow for this blue buff to be up. And this is the fun thing. Because Razor couldn't smite it, he's just going to be an absolute menace and bully out Yike from the jungle. And because he does that, it means that Scuttle Crab in the bottom side can be secured by FNATIC. It means that push is pretty much guaranteed from his bot lane. And yeah, that does mean that the top lane matchup Broken Blade gets push, because Yike can hover up to the top side, though I wouldn't really expect any form of attention from Yike to the top lane because it's a nothing matchup. So what do I mean by nothing matchup? Basically, it's a laning phase where both top laners are just hitting one another when it means absolutely nothing. Poppy has that passive auto attack shield, and Cassante has a shield in his kit. Poppy also has that innate amount of defense, and with the grasp procs coming out from both players, they're just going to be healing. Now, this situation is interesting. Razor's just shown in the top jungle, so I'm surprised Broken Blade's playing that far forward, considering he knows that there's a threat on the top side of the map. It's why we see G2 getting aggressive bot side. Now, Mickey is tanking a lot of damage there, more than he needed to, but it has in return resulted in some pretty damaged health bars on FNATIC's side. Do I think it's the most optimal? Absolutely not. Mickey has no mana and needs to really take a reset. The issue is G2 haven't fully crashed the wave, so FNATIC can just stay as top side. Broken Blade's going aggressive, getting the auto attacks down. The flash Q gets the first blood, and down goes the Cassante. Game 1, it was Oscarinin getting the advantage over Broken Blade. This time, Broken Blade does it himself and gets the first blood onto Oscarinin. I'm interested to see what his first buy is, because should be some resistances. And the big thing is, because Broken Blade has TP, this Drake can come through and should be guaranteed for G2. Because, let's be honest, not really much you can do. He gets jumped on. That's going to be Drake secure, but FNATIC collapsed in quicker. Caps couldn't join up with his team. Instead, though, Humanoid does and gets himself an easy kill. Yike just got pincered into the pit and the river. So he was dead to rights after the Drake was secured. I'm just taking a look at where the junglers are now. And they're immediately up to the top side of the map. Void Grubs, very, very powerful. Allowing for the ease of siege. And Oscarinin, Razork, gonna start these up. Yike is on the top side of the map, looking for a play. He sees the Cassante. Needlework gonna be invested. All out used on the other side. The snip does work, but it isn't gonna secure the kill. G2 force her on away as Daisy is doing some work. Broken Blade dashes through, but he tags onto the minion and not the champion. That results in an easy clapback for FNATIC as Oscarinin once again gets his revenge. Topside dives continue as Jun lands the crash down to allow for a second kill to the Cassante. G2 overstay their welcome in the top side of the rift, as they are basically being punished for what they are doing. So let's take a quick check-in on items. Calls started up for both of G2's ADCs. Looking to stack that fully up. Caps getting it back right now. Got a plate to boot. Gonna probably turn that into some decent items. Getting the scepter part of his Trinity Force. Always nice. I'm actually surprised the Gwen's able to get 2 of the 3 grubbies there. That does surprise me, as I would have realistically thought that Razork would have got all 3. In actuality, he does not, and G2, I think, are pretty content. The objective control they've had this game is similar to game 1, where it's very dominant. The issue is FNATIC are trying to contest them, but it's not really working out too well. Anyway, FNATIC are back onto the board. We've got a minute 30 until Drake is on the table, and both these teams gonna be happy it's a Cloud Drake second. It means that Soul's gonna be probably decent unless it's Chemtech. Now, I'm watching Razork here. If Mickey stepped into that scuttle there, he would have definitely have gone forward and tried to get the kill. But instead, keeps himself hidden. Now, G2 trying to set up a 3-member dive in the mid lane. Humanoid, don't forget, was very potent in game number 1. And keeping him behind here on this Smolder is very beneficial. It's top side. Trading coming through. Grass procs gained. And that's the extent of that trade. I was expecting the keeper's verdict to come out from Broken Blade. And yes, I did spend time remembering the name of that ability. I learned it so that I could talk about it. Anyway, mid lane. That's a very just tame Magnet Storm. But it's not enough to keep Caps alive. The response from Mickey is Caps just Valkyrie straight into the True Shot Barrage. Noah gets himself on the board with a kill. And FNATIC get themselves the second Drake of the game here. It feels like, but uh-oh. Humanoid's going to be caught, ran down. And Sama probably going to be Benefactor. As both the ADCs get kills. G2 not going to be down here in time for this Drake. And Ocean Soul is what we're fighting for in this game. Oh boy. A little bit of an oopsie from both mid laners there. But in the long run, I'd say it's slightly beneficial to G2. With the fact that the wave state was so good for them. Dogs are barking for no reason, as they do at the middle of the night. And yeah, I'm gonna slow it down a bit. Might as well. We're at that stage of the game where we're just bouncing between objectives. Both teams don't really want to fight, as power spikes aren't really met. I think right now, FNATIC probably the more likely team to want to fight, with the fact that they've got a bit more sustain with the redemption in the Ivan's back pocket. But the TPs are going to come in here, and we are looking to get a bit of a Barney. Keeper's verdict yeets out the Ivan, but that's it. It's just bye-bye Ivan, and both teams disengage. No real fighting just yet. And that's the end of that. Simple as you like. FNATIC are actually going to utilize the fact that G2 backed away to start to pressurize this bot lane tier 1. And just looking at the rest of the map. Hans stayed mid, so he's going to skill push there. Maybe get another plate. I don't know how low the tower is. Void Grub buff. Gonna help a little bit. Yeah, that should be plating. Secured, obviously. Utilizing the Zeri dash to get over the wall to safety. And G2 aren't gonna give up that easily. I think the way they've been utilizing the objectives, I mean, 5 plates to 2 here, clearly tells you that they've been focusing down turrets as their prio. The issue is, this stage, FNATIC have the quicker pace towards first tower. Thanks to the Demolish and the one Void Grub they do have. Now, in the long run, G2 are going to really benefit, as I thought they were getting Void Grubs. Not actually going to get second spawn of Grubbies this game. That's kind of surprising. And the reason I think that's surprising is because typically the prio on Grubs is quite high. I get that you can't necessarily have 6 Void Grubs because FNATIC took 1. But even still, 5 gives you at least 1 Void Might. And that gives you the opportunity to have it tank tower and initiate a dive. Even then, that's a pretty difficult situation, as we're getting a repeat gank from game 1. Both Mickey and Caps caught out in the top lane, but Yikes up here this time and is able to trade one back. G2 are going to get killed off twice, but they're looking for more. Razor going to be able to escape here, and G2 bit off more than they can chew. Simple way to word it. Because that fight, so oddly similar to game 1. But this time, thankfully, no TPs were invested. And in fact, Broken Blade kept himself bot side to secure a tower for G2, the second one for them, which keeps the gold relatively even comparative to the kills. So, as it stands, G2 behind in kills, but ahead in gold, because they're playing the map so much better than FNATIC. And it's evident in just how effective they're utilizing pushing waves and then FNATIC's urge to make plays. Because early game, FNATIC's comp isn't that strong, which surprises me that they're kind of forcing tower dives. Because they don't really need to, because they scale better. And if they just match, then G2 can't necessarily build up leads. This right here, though, is again the interesting thing that G2 do. They've dropped Herald in this fight, but in actuality, it's a weird one. 3 members of FNATIC collapsed down onto Hansama, and he's dead. The carry of G2's gone, and now Jun just gets into backside, Magnetstorm onto 2, but that's not the main issue of the fight. G2 losing out members, and the Herald utilizes a distraction more than anything. Gets deleted, isn't able to get a crash, so the tower isn't gonna fall. Instead, Broken Blade forced a flash out to round it out, and G2 lost their main ADC, who has a lead, but the opposition ADC's got the bounty. Now, in the extent of all that, Drake didn't actually fall, so we're gonna get another little Barney in the bot lane. G2 are able to secure it, and the engage comes through. The first kill of the fight goes over to G2 as they are able to pick off 2 members, the Ivan and the Cassante, down. That's a big fight win for G2 as it evens out the previous fight, as well as the fact that they're able to get their second Drake. So we take a look at this again, and it's just the fact that Mickey can knock up the Razork, not allowing to escape. So not Razork, Oscarinin not allowing to escape, and Razork's just unable to move. He just can't walk backwards because he walks into the knockup. So he's trapped in front of G2, and yeah, he's deleted. The issue right now for this Ivan is he's very squishy. He isn't the bulkiest of members, with the fact that he's going to support build, you know, like Liandry's or items that provide a bit of health. Liandry, Redemption has a couple of like health items in it, but it's mainly a more supportive team item. And in that last fight, he certainly could have utilized it a bit better. I don't even think he used it at all. So there's that. But we're closing in on 20-minute mark. 2 items coming online for the carries on either side. G2 especially. Looking at Yikes build right now. Probably going to get the death cap second, which is insane to me, for that to be the second item to build. But hey, it is what it is. And he'll be happy once he gets it. Speaking of happy, Humanoid's going to be very happy as Caps is caught in the side lane. And he's looking to get himself a kill. It's pretty easy when you've got an Ivan and a Cassante in front of you protecting you from Caps' initial damage. So, FNATIC get themselves a pick onto the G2 mid laner in some sort of symbolic revenge from game number 1. But yeah, 20 minutes is on the clock. Baron's on the table. FNATIC weary of the fact that G2 aren't showing on the map. So they check the Baron. As you do, fire that true shot barrage across it every single time it's alive. And you know, this stage of the game, G2 aren't on it. They haven't bum rushed it down. Instead, they're just playing it safe, playing it smart, playing it slow. And although I think that the slow, methodical game at this stage favors FNATIC, G2 last game took it long and still managed to win out, even though they were on the losing foot. But something I've seen a bit more in this series so far is Jun being caught out, isolated. Speaking of caught out and isolated, Broken Blade's trying to kill off Humanoid, isn't able to do so. However, there's no TP on Humanoid, so G2 could turn and burn this Baron. Broken Blade does have his. So why aren't G2 running it? It makes sense to. Instead, they've just seeded pressure in this topside map. That ward, huge. That ward, also huge. Means G2 can't run straight to the Baron from base. And that does mean that FNATIC can't necessarily garner control of the river because they're having to put deep wards to try and make a miracle play. I think that's the aim of the game. But G2, wise to it, they marked the wards as they spawned and they quickly cleared them out. It's also really good for Mickey right now. He's got Zombie Ward. So FNATIC's wards are just getting deleted. Now, I understand that Gwen's very good at killing Barons, having the sustainability in the kit, but not that strong, where you can solo it by yourself. It doesn't help that he tried it when Dragon was spawning, because 9 times out of 10, the Ezreal's going to check Baron with the True Shot Barrage as he goes towards the Drake, so that you can kind of send the right members to the right place. And so FNATIC, play it the smart way, don't overextend, and don't give over an easy kill or an easy Baron to G2. Instead, G2 give up a Drake. Anyway, that True Shot Barrage comes up way too quick. But it doesn't really matter. FNATIC and G2 slowed this game down considerably. It's very similar, oddly similar to game number 1, minus the flip-floppiness. There's been no massive throw just yet from either team, and it's why, surprisingly, does godly to G2, but it's just why it's been this very slow-paced, calmer game, because they're just farming. That's the easy way to word this. And Humanoid, I mean, he doesn't really care too much about stacks. 293 on board. And that is enough to get the XE. The issue is for him right now, he is stepping quite far forward. G2 lying in wait, ready for the play. He's going to back it up. knowing full well he was in danger. And G2 may take control. Every like 30 seconds, the true shot barrage is being thrown towards that Baron pit. But Noah, caught out on side, Broken Blade not going to overinvest into the play. Instead, dashes away to safety. And G2 almost gets summoners out from Noah. But in actuality, nothing comes from it. Now we start to push forward. We'll take stock of items. 3 items coming through across the board. 3 on the mid laners. 3 in the bot lane for Hansama. And usually that results in some kills as John tanks up a lot of damage. Ivan's shield going to keep him topped up. But at this stage, there's not much that's happening. They're trying to put pressure down onto the map, but it isn't really working out for either team. G2 have the bot lane pressure, though it is kind of being pushed back now by the Cassante. Mid lane's even. It's an even state of one just kills the wave, then the other. Top side was the first bit of action we've seen in a while, but again, it hasn't really resulted in much for either team. And yeah, at this stage, we're kind of wanting a fight or something from either side to kind of break. Because although this gold lead is slowly growing for G2, FNATIC are trying to fight back. And it doesn't feel like this is a firmly controlled game by G2 in any sense of the word. It's just a game that's getting boring, to put it lightly. And it doesn't help that this is the grand finals and we had a banger game 1 that's flip-floppy. But this could be the game. Mickey gonna dash forward. G2 want to secure this Drake. Sole point for either team if they get it. But FNATIC grouping up as 4. Oscar in coming down to join the team. And so is Broken Blade. He's passing up. He's on the flank. And he hasn't been spotted yet. Daisy going to be utilized to possibly clear out the vision and protect the backside of FNATIC as Broken Blade spotted out. Keeper's verdict going to be used, but it only lands onto Daisy. Mickey dives straight forward to his own demise, and G2 are falling to pieces. Humanoid's got 2, and he's looking to get more as down goes Yike. The jungler from G2 is gone, and that should be an easy secure for FNATIC as they win out the fight. And they're probably going to turn that into a Baron. And that was just clinical. I'd say a bit of an error from Broken Blade. The keeper's verdict only landing onto Daisy meant that the Ivan's still there to put shields down to allow for Humanoid to step forward and go aggressive. It also didn't help that he didn't hit either Humanoid or Noah. Someone on FNATIC's side needed to have been yeeted out, but they weren't. Instead, the cupcake got tossed, and that's it. Mickey's engage also not the best, as he kind of goes in, but that's it. He doesn't get really much advantage from it. Instead, he gets deleted. The smaller Q backfire damage deletes most of Hansama's health bar, and that's how he falls. And this is just where the Baron gets given over to FNATIC, and they get to siege. There's a lot of standing gold on the map for them. The fact that they've just secured mid lane tier 1 is huge. They've got the cannon and brushes from Ivan to just make it impossible for G2 to clear the wave, unless they use like the Zeri W. But even then, you're also heavily reliant on Caps for wave clear. And Caps is split pushing at this stage, because he realizes that G2 need to put some avenue of pressure onto the map. But Oscarinin matches him, gets the push out himself, and now G2 are in this awkward state where Cap should be on wave clear duty. But I think Hans will probably take that one for himself. And yeah, just looking at Cap's pathing, he pathed up to mid lane like he was going to clear the wave, but instead gone topside, realizing, hey, my tier 2 probably could fall here, so I'm just going to pick that one up. And there we go. But as it stands, Baron 2.8k in the favor of FNATIC off the back of this one. 11-5 in terms of kills. But this game's been close for so long, it's surprising how big the kill score difference is. Now, that is a kind of a testament to how G2 are played, as Cap's being run down, TP can be utilised here by Broken Blade, and it's Oscarinin on the wrong side of the map. Now FNATIC are going to be able to secure the tier 2 and are possibly looking for more with the inhibitor tower in mind. All out comes through here from Oscarinin, but he is unable to escape as G2 kill him off, but their base is in tatters. The inhibitor's going to fall. What more can FNATIC get here? Mid lane is pushing in their favour, but it's not going to be an avenue of attack for him just yet. Realizing minute 30 until Soul, they're going to take their resets and just buy what they can for the impending, probably for the last fight of the game. As both teams realize this one is very much down to the wire yet again. Only one of these two teams can advance and win the championship. So every moment, every fight matters. And Broken Blade could be caught out here. Does have the heroic charge. Not gonna need it just yet. Steadfast presence comes through. Gets himself to safety. Now the mid lane dance begins. 40 seconds until Soul for FNATIC. Noah clearing out the minions in mid. Hans stood waiting, ready to clear them out. And at this stage, we're waiting for the fight. That one fight could happen now. Cap's caught outside. Broken Blade no longer has TP. Humanoid taking mass amounts of damage. But Oscarinin, he's too bulky. He's going to run him down. If it weren't for the fact that Mum secures the kill. G2 though looking for Razork. They're going to delete the jungler. The needlework thrown out as well. Quite a bit invested here by G2. That's going to be Zerial. It's going to be Gwenel as well as Rakanal. All used for that one pick. FNATIC though have pushing mid. G2 forced to back. Soul point secure for themselves. And we're yet again in an even Drake state. But still, FNATIC are going to translate the fact that G2 went to the Drake into a tier 2 top. Thanks to killing off Caps in that top lane. It's we're in a state of the game that's very, very close. One pick results in so much. G2 look to have caught out Jun. The Rel on the wrong side of the map. Yike can jump over. They're not going to overinvest. Realize they might not have enough damage to kill off the tankiest horse in the world. But what G2 do have is a lot of upfront damage to deal with the Baron. 10 seconds on the clock till that one is up. Good back delay there by Noah, hitting the True Shot Barrage. Baron is on the table, and a possible fight is brewing. FNATIC first into the pit. Control Wars down, they're starting this one up. They're going to try and force G2 into this one. Keep your eyes on Yike. In position to contest. Over the wall he goes, but he's unable to secure it. And in the end, he is deleted. Noah takes his life, and they're looking for more. As Broken Blade forced to flash away. But that's the Baron. Over to FNATIC. They've got their eyes on G2's base with this one. 4v5. The base needs to be destroyed with this one, I feel. As this game, the longer it goes, G2 feel more and more comfortable. TP going to be invested here, as that's going to be Humanoid joining up with the rest of his team, and it looks to be a pick garnered here, as down goes the Poppy. Caps is free firing in, but the damage is ticking away. The Mystic shots landing. Noah's health bar incredibly low, but Caps is taken lower as well. Jun trying to body block here, force the Corki into a bad situation as FNATIC try and collapse down onto him. Respawn comes through here as Yike joins up with the rest of his team. Neil looks used, but the crash down is massive from Jun, denying Hansama the ability to teamfight, as instead it's actually 2 kills over to G2, but Humanoid, he's free firing the triple kill to the ADC in the mid. It's a quadra to round out game number 2 as FNATIC tie up the series. What a second game in this series. It was what we like to call a bounce back for FNATIC, as they just take down G2 in a clinical fashion. So, game number 3. And finally G2 gets side select immediately over the blue side for this one. And the bans are already coming through. Vi, Braum, MF, Ash. Clearly MF is staying a red side ban for both teams. And Poppy, this time removed by G2. Oscar and Poppy not going to come through into this one after recent performances on it, obviously, showcasing the strength of that pick. I need to quickly disappear for 1 second, so I'm going to pause the stream right now. So, surprise, I'm back. And I'm ready to go. A lot to discuss in this game, as we enter the third one in the series. We already stated G2 are on blue, FNATIC on red. Bands coming through thick and fast: Braum, Poppy, Vi, Ashe, MF, Zyra. Rel has been G2's priority on blue side every single series, but that does give over the option to Corki for FNATIC, for Humanoid, but I think the Smolder's been fine for him overall. However, other options include the Ezreal. Like, FNATIC could easily go double ADC here on 1-2. G2's response then could be, anything. Instead, they're prioritizing the Leona. So, engage options for FNATIC in their first rotation on red side. That does surprise me. I think that, we haven't actually seen Caps whip out a Smolder yet. So, whether or not he plays it is a different story, but that's been my sticking point in this series so far, is how good the Smolder has been in terms of with Humanoid. He's been very prevalent on the pick in terms of damage and being the outright carry for FNATIC. G2 get the Kalista this game after it was banned out in game number 2, so nothing changes in that front. This time, instead of Rakan, it's a Rel pet alongside it, which I like a little bit more. The fact that Rel engage is a lot stronger than the Rakan engage because you've got more potential of hitting people. And so having the ability to then re-engage with the Fate's Call is so nice. Brand, going to be picked up here for Yike. Into the Maokai. It's surprising. It's not too surprising with the fact that Zyra's banned. But it's surprising that they're not going to go towards the Gwen here, considering the Zenith Blade and then obviously the Piercing Arrow. Long range engage, poke and harass, as well as engage, that could be denied by the Gwen's Twilight Shroud. Instead, going for the Brand, so you're looking to get the max amount of damage possible with the Pyroclasm and stuff into arguably two very bulky frontline members for FNATIC. Now, kind of the weird pick here is this Varus coming through. I'm assuming it is for the mid lane, because Varus bot side into Kalista Rel just seems like a suicide mission. You're lacking really any mobility, and with the fact that there's so many bans here, if G2 don't ban the Corki, then see, if G2 ban the Corki here, it kind of does force the Varus into mid, which I wouldn't mind. If they ban the Yone, which is a similar option, that sort of screams Oscar Rinnan pick. But yeah, Corki 4 makes sense. This is where I think Caps probably will go to the Azir, when typically all the ADC options that he plays is banned. His next go-to is the Azir. It just seems like his most common pick. The options then for topside, Cassante. Broken Blade's kind of go-to is Cassante blind. Aatrox is the other, but Cassante in this situation makes the most sense. You've got really no frontline on G2 side of things bar the Rel, so Aatrox wouldn't necessarily work too well, especially into Twisted Advance, Shield Daybreak from the Leona. You got Chain of Corruptions, and presumably a top lane option like this Camille that all have lockdown. So if he went Aatrox, it would have been a very bad time for him. So I like this overall draft for G2. You've got solid frontline, you've got backline access with the Azir. It's just essentially the comp is designed to group people up with the fact that you can sweep people together. You've then got the Magnet Storm from the Rel, and then the inevitable CC chain that can be followed up with the Callista. The Pyroclasm's going to do a lot of work here, and G2's comp looks to be designed to set up Yike as the main carry. As for FNATIC's side of things, with how well Oscar's kind of been performing inside on his own, Broken Blade's going to have a bit more of a difficult time into Camille. And I like that overall because Camille inside's kind of is there to negate what G2 has been doing all series in being nuisances in the side lanes. Camille does the same thing and is a nuisance inside, but can kind of duel very effectively against many members. So, the fact G2 have drafted, well, FNATIC have drafted to negate the G2 style certainly benefits us and sets up for an explosive game number 3. So, away we go. Fans of 5 once more across both teams, and this is where things get interesting. Taking a look at the runes, and obviously they're standard. Phase Rush for the Maokai, so the less tanky build, and it makes sense considering you've got a Varus, Corki and Camille. You are the sole AP damage on FNATIC's side of Rift. Now, that probably leads me to believe he'll go Leandry's first into some tankier items, maybe even Locket. Who knows? It very much depends on how Razork wants to build his tree. Now, G2 side of it, a lot more mixture of damage with the brand, with the Azir for the AP. You've then got the Callista and the Cassante for some AD, although Cassante probably will build full resistance. Full armor is the expected build. I think he'll probably focus the Iceborne Gauntlet first, just to basically make it so that his counter pieces in the, well, Camille can't do as much damage as she is doing right now. And the issue for the early game here is Camille will always win out the early lane into the Cassante matchup due to the passive shielding she gets. The physical damage protection shield just allows for her to easily stack up Qs, and then you go QW for the extra damage. And yeah, Broken Blade can't really step up into the wave. He does land a tag and get a grass proc, but you just look at how the waves built up. Oscarinin built up a massive CS lead already for himself. Broken Blade's bullied off the wave. Simple as you like. Oscar's also got the health pot tick in sight. Broken Blade used all of his already, so he is forced back to base. And the interesting thing about this matchup is Broken Blade is Ghost TP. We haven't really talked about this as a whole, but something he does a lot is bot side cleanse is going to be burnt out here from Noah, and this is the dangers of the Varus into the Callista. The low mobility allows for easy setup for this Rel and the Callista to get engages onto you. But yeah, that's going to be Noah forced back. Yikes, setting up the possible tower dive here. Jun's very susceptible to it as topside. Broken Blade pops the ghost, but will he be able to escape? It seems like it as Camille backs away, but Jun can be immediately jumped on. Good crash down there from Mickey to deny the Zenith Blade, but he is still going to fall first. His first blood over to FNATIC, and they're not going to be able to get it. Yike secures the trade back, which is actually very huge. Health bar's going to keep Hans Summer alive. But to be honest, I'd say that's worth it for G2. Kill onto Yike is massive for them. Is the main damage dealer, I feel. As this game goes on, getting that advantage is massive. Topside, Broken Blade's starting to clamp back in some of these trades as Mickey, Secret Agent Mickey, he makes a play bot side and gets punished. Will it be the same story in top as he's already up here? The crashdown comes through just to push Oscar away, but he gets the Q down. And Oscarinin, he's staying alive, and he's gonna probably re-engage here. Razork showing. That's about it. 3 members of FNATIC topside. G2 have the 2, but the brand's pathing up. Will it be in time? Mickey gets denied his Hex Flash. The crashdown comes down onto 2, and G2 are looking to fight this. Yike misses his abilities, and that's going to be a dead Rel yet again. Mickey treating his Rel like he treats his Nautilus. A KDA absolute destroyer. Another kill for Oscarinin as he kills off Yike, and Razork cleans up the fight. It's 4 kills to 1 at the end of that one. That realistically speaking, G2 misplayed. Mid lane, Mickey's back at it once again, infecting all the lanes with his mayhem. Camp secures the kill, this time in a winning play for G2. And it's insanity across the board. We watched the top fight again, okay. So really it's a 3v2. Because the control was there, Mickey can't Hex Flash because the flash from Maokai is perfectly timed to deny his escape. The Pillar of Flame and the Q from the brand go awry, and yeah, it's just very easy for FNATIC to re-engage. Jun's incredibly healthy still, so he can go in with the Zenith Blade. The CC chain he can provide just locks down Yike, so that Oscarinin can get the pick. And now, this is the issue of picking Varus into Callista and Rel. You get ran down pretty simple. Anyway, possibilities of re-engage. Mickey gonna be caught here. Taken quite low. Hans does have the Fate's Call to pull Mickey to safety. His wife, G2 are playing on an edge. Q comes through. Mickey's isolating himself. Crashdown comes through. Fate's Call to safety, but Humanoid, he's continuing to chase. The knockup comes through. The stun lands, but there's a lot of damage down. It's going to be 2 kills over to the Corki. Humanoid's getting paid, but Caps is here to clip his wings. It's a 2-for-1 trade in favor of FNATIC yet again as Mickey. It's sloppy. I'm going to say it. Didn't need to die there. And he gets punished. Noah does get himself a crashed in wave in mid as his kind of payment for dying in bot lane, but this here is just greedy from Mickey. He didn't need to stay under the tower. And because he does, it puts Hans in danger to get the Fate's Call. It's good work here by Humanoid. The flash to secure the auto to get the double kill basically makes his life trade worth it. And although it does give Caps his second kill, in the long run, the mid lane is still in favor of Humanoid. And he's actually setting up a freeze. That's pretty nice. Need a burrito. Caps took a reset. He knows he can't really break it, as Hans also obviously died, so G2 resetting their wave states and their lane assignments is going to cost them. A nice CS lead here to Humanoid, and this Corki, although it's died twice, is still a threat, as G2 doing their thing they seem to do every single series. Early Drake for themselves. It's a prevalent trade that they like. And for some reason, teams are letting them do it. And it doesn't... So the reasoning, obviously, is the fact that Caps has roam because of... Yes, the wave was being frozen in front of FNATIC's tower. But because it's doing that, Humanoid can't step forward. Bot lane Hans and Mickey have the advantage. So they get to roam up. So it's an easy Drake secure there. While Caps TP'd into, or roamed down to the bot side for the play, we did see Brand securing the Void Grubs. It's top side. That's going to be the baby cage put down onto Broken Blade. And it's going to be basically an escape tool. As Caps goes over the wall, dashing, sliding, gliding, trying to get an Emperor's Divide onto Oscarinin. But the angle's not there. And the Hexite Ultimatum, that's the name of the ability. I was trying to remember it, you know. I have them weird moments where I forget names of abilities. Like, I've already forgotten the name of Popule. And that's kind of bad. Anyway, regardless of that, second spawning of grubbies are on the table. G2's Special is getting 6 grubs. And that's that. Caps getting a nice trade down onto Oscarinin. And with these 6 grubs being secured, G2 will pretty much have very strong sieging. And it's kind of unfortunate for FNATIC because I expected them to invest into grubs because the Camille in side lanes is just so effective if she's able to get them. And yeah, the fact that she doesn't means that G2 have a far better time against that champion as this game goes on. And, you know, it becomes a pretty solid game. Now, what I will say is we're at that stage that lasted an eternity in the previous 2 games in that mid game, where we're kind of just waiting for objectives. But right now, the possibility of a dive onto Broken Blade's happening as Razor snuck in behind. Hawkshot's going to land as the Hexite Ultimatum is channeled. Broken Blade's going to use the W, but he uses it a bit too early as the Twisted Advance puts him in a difficult situation. That being said, the Ghost is used. Broken Blade gets to safety as Mickey tanks up the Nature's Grasp. And Broken Blade gets to escape. That being said, now Oscarinin may be in a difficult situation. Hookshot's going to be used as Mickey gets the flash out with the crash down. And Cabs is forced to Emperor's Divide. Off the back of that play, he was clamping in, isn't able to save it for the potential dive. Instead, FNATIC, they utilized a couple of summoners there to get their top laner out to safety. But in the long run, I think G2 are pretty content with that and how it's turning out for them. So, let's continue forward with this game. Let's take stock of things. Mid lane, Nash's Tooth picked up for Caps, already got himself a needlessly large rod as the Corki completes his first item, the Trinity Force. That's slightly surprising how ahead of the curve Caps is, as bot side, Oscarinin gonna be this time killed off. You have to feel the Pyroclasm secures it for Yike. And that brand, the Leandries online, is a massive threat as this game continues forward. We're already saying how he's probably the main carry on G2 side here, as Caps is kind of going to be more utilized as a side lane threat. As the team fights go on, the potential kills can happen as Broken Blade TP's in top, Nature's Grasp is used, but Broken Blade uses W, and he's immediately extremely squishy. Jun secures the kill with the solar flare, and that's a pretty yikes TP. We've seen a couple of them this series so far from Broken Blade, where he TPs to his demise, and right now, it's giving the avenue for FNATIC to play through top lane. Harold's on the table right now, but G2 are collapsing up here. You realise how low that tier 1 is? Mickey's gonna just spawn some Void Grubs for himself to give Caps his tower. There you go. Couple more autos needed. But G2 secure Herald. And FNATIC, I'm not sure they'll even get trade of tower just yet. Tower secure for G2. The caveat for that play is though, Hextech Drake secured for FNATIC. Bot side, there is going to be the securing of the tower. Oscarin is just going to thin the wave out. But Harold's dropped. Yike's going to crash this one in. Boom. A massive amount of Void Mites come out. That tower's taken a lot of damage. Harold takes it to about a quarter of its health bar. And now G2 can finally spend some gold. As this game is starting to mount into a pretty advantageous state for G2. Now, what I will say is, FNATIC are very much not out of this one. You just take a look at the gold. It shows it's very even, but objective-wise, G2 clearly playing the map better right now. Jun's going to be caught here. Not going to be tagged by the Q, and so he gets to stay alive. We'll clear out the wall, but he's playing with fire. The Soul Flare lands here, and Caps is caught out. Nature's Grasp is going to be used, and the Emperor's Divide does not buy any solace for the mid laner. It's a double kill now as Hans Hammer falls, and G2 are forced to run away. Hextech Ultimatum's going to be channeled onto Mickey, and this Rel is incredibly squishy at this stage of the game. Going to be hit by the piercing arrow and deleted from where he stands. Broken Blade goes all out, but it is not going to be enough to get a kill. And G2, they lose 3 members off the back of that one, and they're losing across the board as Humanoid didn't even TP in, and he's going to secure himself a tier 1 in the top side map. That is a well-worked fight from FNATIC, punishing G2's greed as the Solar Flare, Nature's Grasp, roots Caps for days. It's also the Varusol tagging onto Hans Sammer, and that just means Noah gets 2 pretty easy and clean kills. Oscar Rinin then goes on to chase down, and it's 3 all round beautiful easy kills for Noah, who's just getting absolutely paid this game. 900 gold up on this Callista, and that's really a massive advantage considering how much he was bullied in the early game. You realize I've always kind of been talking up how hard it is for the Varus to play into Callista Rel, because you're such an immobile carry. It becomes very easy for them to lock you up and just demolish you in fights. Now, right now, G2 playing very aggressive for the tier 2 top. The Nature's Grasp is going to be thrown out here by FNATIC, but this Azir Tower is still standing. And Sammer's caught out here. Cleanse does absolutely nothing, but keep your eyes on Yike. The Pyroclasm bouncing through the health bars as Noah's taken incredibly low. On the top side of things, it's going to be Jun falling first as he goes too far. Broken Blade's going to continue to chase down Humanoid as Noah flashes to safety. It's a kill over to G2, and somehow Hans Sammer stays alive. And they're going to get themselves the tier 2 to boot. still continuing to chase as Oscar Renin running back to the safety of his mid lane tier 1. And I'm not gonna be surprised if G2 turn to the Baron right now. It's up in 50 seconds. A minute until the first Infernal Drake of the game as well. Both teams kind of want that. A lot of extra damage in that Drake buff. So, we're going to continue forward with this one. And a lot to think about, really. As these team fights continue forward, do FNATIC have the damage? Because we just saw it there. Hands was able to survive. He burnt everything to do so, but he didn't fall. G2's collapse and response to the play was quick enough to keep their ADC alive that FNATIC right now need to consider, do we need to focus someone else? Do we need to kill Yike? Because that 3-1-0 brand, 1.1k up on his counterpart, the only leader on G2's side doing work, as Oscar Renin hookshots in, goes quite deep. Broken Blade can continue to chase as the Flash Empress Divide comes through from Caps. It's an easy pick off as Oscar Renin goes too far. Jun's going to be hit by the Q from the brand, stunning him in place, and that's going to be a massive burn down as Hans Sama gets the kill. That's 2 kills over to G2. There's a Drake on the table, and there's a Baron as well, but G2 don't care. They're matching side lanes as Humanoid's pushing top side for the tier 2, which he does manage to secure, but Caps, he gets himself his own. He drops the Azir tower, and FNATIC really can't stay. The Azir tower's already targeting Noah, and Humanoid's taken quite low. Mickey's joining up with his mid laner, and that's another kill over to Caps. It's a shutdown, but he gets himself 2 in an absolute tower disaster for FNATIC. Finally, G2 could turn towards this Drake that has just been sat alive for so long. They catch out Oscar Renin, and they get themselves the win in play. Simple as you like. FNATIC are fumbling certain aspects of this game. G2 have caught up in kills. FNATIC have been the kill team in this series, but G2 can kill. This brand isn't the Zyra of game 1, which was mainly just there to do dot damage. This brand has burst, and as well as dot. And with the fact that he's gone Rylai's, he's certainly setting up to allow for his team to do work here. Because bear in mind, the Azir just stacks up the attack speed to do the damage for his team. Meanwhile, this brand's fully reliant on the magic damage of his abilities. So you kind of have 2 kind of cohesive units that have different strengths. And that is why I like this combo of Azir brand for G2. Because the brand also benefits from the Azir ulti of them being pushed together. As Caps starts this Baron, isn't going to continue it. It will pull Jun over, drops the ward in the back of the pit, so FNATIC well aware G2 aren't playing for it. There's Broken Blade getting aggressive, the Intofo strikes pull Oscar Renin back, but Yike's here, he lands the Q, he lands the W, he lands everything, and that ultimatum being dropped down onto Yike does absolutely nothing, as he gets himself an easy breezy kill for Broken Blade. He's now 2-2-1, but you look at the build he's gone. Iceborne Gauntlet, 4 Mel, and Ninja Tabby. He's so bulky and hard to kill. He's diving the backline. A massive crashdown comes through from Mickey. It's 4 members hit by it, but G2 aren't done yet. They've got themselves 2 kills, but their health bars are incredibly low. Caps falls and Humanoid can continue to chase. He's looking for the play, but he may have gone a bit too far forward as Hans Sammer gets the outplay. It's the red buff burn, baby, as Humanoid oversteps his welcome. G2 make it barely out alive. As we watch this fight again, essentially G2 are positioning, trying to get this tier 1. That's the aim of the play, but Broken Blades just stood in their backline for some reason. The Pyroclasm does a bit of work. The Fate's Call also utilized to pull Mickey out from the crash down, so he gets out alive. Cabs gets hit by a rocket. He misplays that by stepping a bit too far forward. FNATIC know that was a misplay and a half, and G2 tie up the kill score. But they sit pretty healthy in this game, especially considering they've caught Razork out. The crash down lands, Pillar of Fire, but the Q won't land, so the CC chain from G2 cannot continue. But Razork's health bar is absolutely destroyed. He's got no camps on this top side of the map to heal himself up, so he's going to be running in to pretty much his own demise. Mickey going to deny his entry into the pit, and that's Baron secured for G2. They're looking for more as Jun's going to be the first one targeted. Crash down from Mickey does absolutely nothing as he is immediately killed off, but Hans trades one back. It's support for top laner, and G2 gonna be content with that. You have to feel it means that they get push inside, and it's very hard for them to really do much. They do lose Mickey, who is their primary engage, but G2 aren't looking to engage right now. They're just looking to utilize these cannons, these minions with the Baron buff to secure these outer towers. They've just got their last tier 2. All that remains are inhib towers, to be honest. That's going to be the aim of the game. 30 seconds right now until Infernal Drake, number 2 of the game. Soul point to G2 if they get it. FNATIC setting up a bit of vision. Not going to be able to have it stay, so that they can TP in. Oscarin and Humanoid both have the flank option. Expect the Camille to be looking for it though. G2 start up the objective. FNATIC aren't gonna go contest it. Soul point secured for G2. And they're looking for more here. Top side in the bot lane, Oscarinin. Primary focus of the G2 engage, it feels like in this game. It's Mickey constantly looking. The Hex Flash over. Isn't going to overstep his welcome. Is just bullying them back though, as the first inhibitor tower going to be sieged onto. Immediately Nature's Grasp is thrown out here by Razork, and G2 look to try again. The issue for them right now is the wave state is so incredibly awful for G2 that they aren't able to really get any push in. A little bit of chip damage here onto this tier 3, but because Humanoid pushed in top, Cabs is forced to respond to it. That means that there's no real siege potential at the bot side or mid from G2. And that's just kind of caused this awkward state at the map that G2 have to reset on. FNATIC, on the other hand, have survived and weathered this Baron pretty well. It's a very minimal Baron gainage for G2. And as such, FNATIC have done well. Looking to collapse down here onto Mickey, who oversteps his welcome. Crashdown comes through, but there's no Fate's Call to pull him to safety. And FNATIC get the pick off onto G2 support. Now, as that's happening, we look at mid lane. Hansamu will get pushing. No one on FNATIC's there to respond. So that wave's going to hit the tier 3. Razor's coming in, so's Oscar in. But it's still doing damage. Sure, it's minimalistic, but it could have been easily prevented if FNATIC didn't overcommit into the top side of the map. I get that you got to play there and got to kill. But even then, it's too many members invested into the play. I mean, I get that you were trying to also get caps there, but still. G2 happy with how things are looking, and they look to have caught Oscar in and out on side. Jun also a possibility as caps TP'd in deep, ready to go to crash down in Magnet Storm utilized, and that's a massive amount of damage down as humanoids already half it chunked. The brand secures the shutdown, and the health bars of FNATIC are being deleted from where they stand. G2 find 3, and that's gonna be game done. Baron up in minute 10. They can go towards that. FNATIC's response time is absolutely naught. The issue for G2 is there's no waves prepped for this. They've got one cannon minion in the mid lane. The wave will slowly push up, but that's it. Anyway, this is just a great collapse. Camps is just there. Chunks out Oscar Innen. Mickey's engage is perfect. The solar flare was onto the Rel, which is probably a missed targeting from Jun, just trying to use it before he died. But even then, it should have really been utilized on Caps or someone who is a primary damage dealer and not the Rel who's being pulled to safety by the Callista. Simply put, that fight sucked for FNATIC. And let's be honest, G2 at this state of the game should be easily closing this one out. 4k gold lead up on FNATIC. Big pillar of flame there. Tags onto Jun. Leona going to be taken a little bit lower. Does have the Warmogs, so able to heal that one up. Broken Blade, however, does not have that same luxury. So that health damage is going to stick. But we're in this awkward predicament for FNATIC as G2 control the bottom side of the map. Soul is on the table in 10 seconds. FNATIC need to push G2 away from this mid lane to get that. We're not going to see an objective trade as G2 look for humanoid. Caps dives forward, drops the Azir tower, and they look to have caught out Oscar in that Hextech ultimatum. Not gonna be the ultimate demise of G2. Instead, it's gonna be Yike catching Noah out, Broken Blade executing him off, and G2 are finding kills across the map as all of FNATIC have fallen. Who cares about Soul? Who cares about the Baron? G2 care about ending this game and getting to match point, series point, and LEC championship point. I mean, I could play-by-play commentate Jun dying, because that's all that's left to do in terms of fighting right now. And yeah, he goes in, crash down, massive. The Pillar of Flame does the damage and hands, takes the spears out of Jun's back to end this one off. G2 reach match point. We've got one more game to cover, and I need a drink for it. Game 4. A lot to discuss. Immediately, G2 still on blue side. The dumbest decision I've seen all series. FNATIC have side select and they stay on red. It makes no sense to me because you've beaten G2 on blue side when you're on blue side. You've also beaten, well, almost beat them in game 1 when when G2 are on red. You beat them in game 2 when G2 are on red. G2 pick blue side in game number 3 because that's the first time they've had side select. It makes no sense why you would stay on red for game 3. You should have really picked blue. That's my opinion. Anyway, I think G2 on red side sucks so far from what we've seen. I'm not gonna lie, I also want to check GOL on something. In fact, I'll do it now. Because it does interest me how this actually looks. But G2 MDK. I forget, is this the... I don't know which series this is. I really don't know which series this is. Okay, it's the MDK win. So, game 1 G2 on blue. Game 2 G2 on blue. Game 3 G2 on blue. Game 4 MDK on red. Game 5 MDK go to blue and win against G2. And I mean, I don't know if we covered this series. I don't remember a few weeks ago. But the fact is, clearly, when G2 go to red side, their win rate is atrocious. Like, look. 1 win out of the 3 games. Their blue side games are massive, and it doesn't make sense. Unless you've got scrim results that back up why you keep G2 on blue. It really doesn't make sense to me to keep them on blue side. Because they're clearly winning on blue. And I don't see the logic. So teams clearly must know something about it. Anyway, let's get into game number 4. And bans already coming through. Vi, MF Ash to be banned out by FNATIC. G2 will keep their 3rd ban for something they don't like, maybe the Poppy. Brom's the other ban. Bans won't change much. That's something I've learned throughout these series. Bans stay relatively the same. Poppy, there you go. Last ban from FNATIC, do they ban the Callista? Yes, they do. So, Hans doesn't get that utility champion. What we are going to see is Doral Prio from G2 like normal. And now FNATIC get to lock in their choice of ADC. They don't. They go for their support and jungle like they did in the previous game. And this is looking so much like a salty run bank minus the Callista. So, how did G2 respond? Simply put, I think it's going to be a jungle plus mid lane option. Never mind, they just locked the Cassante. So, Broken Blade's safety clearly leads me to believe that they're trying to force FNATIC to rotate up their draft so G2 can bring out something new. It's surprising to see Hans Sammer's pick dropped down into the 2nd rotation, which clearly leads me to believe that they have something planned. Because, I mean, right now, what do you think? I actually understand why they're doing it, because ADC right now that's up and available, Zeri can be banned away. Jinx, if you want to go for the hyper carrying bot laners. Xayah is an option. There's a few good options there. I know it's not that's locked in, that's for sure, but there's a few, and it is surprising to actually see Caps and Hands as picks making it to the second rotation. Normally it is the it's typically Broken Blade last pick, with presumably Caps as the other fourth pick. But yeah, Hands being dropped this low in Prio is quite surprising. The Olaf ban tends to make me think that we're going to see an ADC top for Broken Blade. Or something squishier. Aatrox? Ezreal gets removed here from Noah's pool. And that Kennen does look like a good angle. I would like to see it. And maybe why the Olaf gets dropped here. But FNATIC, go for the Renekton. The OG of OG blind pick to ops. Him and Gangplank used to just do battle on the Rift as the safest blind pick options. Now, not so much, as Cassante exists. So obviously Broken Blade going to be rocking that into the Renekton. Now what do G2 want to show? The Tristan is gone, so Caps' default option India's Ear can come through, which leaves Hansama with last pick for G2. What would set up G2 the most? Jhin. Now you know my thoughts and opinions on Jhin if you've ever watched these before. I hate the pick. I genuinely do not rate him as a champion in League. He is what I call a utility ADC. And normally I don't rate him. This game, I kind of do. Because I don't see him as the primary damage. Last game, the way it was discussed, I saw the brand as primary damage. This comp kind of cements that style of Bram being the main carry for G2 in this matchup. And the fact that Kalista was a bit more damage friendly for G2. This game, the Jhin is the definite utility, the execution blow with the curtain call, deadly flourish setups. He is there to basically allow for just the mass amount of carnage from the rest of his comp. And that is what I like. Now we aren't going to get to the talking of the Ziggs, because that don't make much sense to me. I get that you have a carry in the mid lane, but from my perspective, looking at the draft coming in, I get people like Corki and think that he is arguably the best ADC or mid lane pick in the meta right now, but there's a time and a place where defaulting back to AP mids is going to happen. I think with Worlds now on the horizon, AP mids are going to come back into fashion. Corki is here, probably won't stay. And I understand why in this game you go for the Ziggs bot. It's because of how Broken Blade played last game. He just stacked armor. Now with 2 actual AP damage threats, he can't just do that freely and not have consequences. Because Noah will hurt. And it doesn't take too many autos. Sorry. cues from this Ziggs to delete a champion's health bar. And that is why I do like it. It does, I would say, a decent job into Jhin, although Jhin is quite long range compared to other ADCs. Ziggs does have the ability to play at range as well. And that bot lane matchup that's, I would say, fairly just easy breezy for the pair of them. There's no real kill threat on either side. It's certainly just going to be a slower game, it feels like. Unless the junglers want to influence the map. Speaking of which, mirroring paths as both start on their blue buffs and are working their way around towards, well, Yike towards the bottom side of the map, Razorg towards the top side, and I mean that makes the most sense. In all honesty, for FNATIC, Oscar Rinham been a massive threat throughout the series. Sure, last game kind of didn't have the same sort of influences the previous two, but he's still a big carry player and is worth the investing in for FNATIC here. So if Razork's able to relieve pressure for this Renekton to get a kill, or just basically make it easy peasy for him, Mickey gonna limp the Q, gets hit by Shield Daybreak, and that's about that. That's the extent of that fight. He's looking for his own clamp back. They're just trading autos here, the supports. Mickey just gonna not allow Jun way back down to the bot side. And I think Jun's pretty happy with that, considering the health bar that Caps has got right now is incredibly low. As Jungler's gonna trade Skull Crabs across the map. We are very much just gonna see even jungling clears for our 4th game of the series. And you know, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this one's very much a slow burner. I think the early game potential of the previous few matches have been, well, last game it was a lot of early game plays coming out from Mickey, roaming and making plays and getting kills and getting killed across the map. This one feels slower, and that's purely because I think that the strength of the comps really rely on late game power. The only real early game champions I feel in this one is Renekton, and even then he's going into Cassandra, who incredibly bulky, stacking up grass procs. It's just not a fun matchup, to be honest. As for mid lane, I mean, Corki is a tale as old as time, and yeah, it's an even scaling matchup. They don't really care about fighting early. They just want to get the gold. Jungle, I mean, Brand, it's late game. He's the burst. He's the damage for late. And bot side, I mean, it's just clearing waves, innit? They don't really want to fight either. So it's a scaling game that we're in. And the fact that we have a cull on the Renekton really does tell you we're just playing for late. So, as this goes, Caps gets hit by Twisted Advance, getting knocked back. Quite low on mana, but I don't think there's enough damage there for Humanoid to get the kill. He did level up off the last minion, so he finally has access to rockets, so he could have honestly have waited for them to come up before taking the fight. But yeah, not going to be able to get that. Instead, it's just a bit of action onto caps, and that's about it. There's nothing gained here for FNATIC. Except G2 got first streaks. I'm just looking at where Yike is. And the answer to that question is bot side. So yeah, Grubbies are going over to FNATIC regardless. Yike's going to secure Scuttle. That's it. Take its reset. And go from there. He might actually get a blue steal. He has got a smite as well. Mickey showing denies that. That being said, there is a few wards kind of scattered into G2's jungle on the top side of the map. Notably right here. So if Yike isn't careful with his pathing, which he has been, he's done that very well, he isn't going to be spotted. And so the potential play in mid lane is going to surmount. Rel and Leona jockeying for position, but it's not going to cause any fighting yet again. They're just hovering. And this has kind of been an interesting game, as neither of the sports have really been in the bot side of the map. They've kind of been all around everywhere but in lane with their ADCs. And that's just meant that, well, it's meant that Hans has been free farming. Because the Ziggs doesn't necessarily have to step up into the wave to deal with him. So there's that. Because of that, because there's no real like aggroness to the bot side, it means that the supporters don't have to stay in lane. It means they can just go be free, invest themselves into other lanes. Like right now, Jun's gonna hold the wave if it weren't for the fact that Humanoid's back. And yeah, essentially, no one's doing anything. And I don't expect it. So, when do I expect it? That's probably the best way to attack this. I think the immediate first look has to be the next wave of Void Grubs. I think, typically speaking, denying 6 grubs away from FNATIC will be massive for G2 as caps. Taking quite low, Mickey's forced to do something. I thought for a second there we may see Razork flash in, go for the play. Instead, he's going to be hit by the passive burn from Yike. And G2, well, FNATIC hold back on the trigger. Because they could have quite easily have gone for a play there onto caps. I know he does have the Emperor's Divide still to deny it, but I think the damage would have been there from FNATIC to kill him before he can basically go for a play. Is Broken Blade? Staxi and Topho strikes as Mickey yet again misses a Q. And G2 first to make a rotation. Hansama into mid. Caps down to the bot lane. And yeah, I think this is G2 trying to accelerate the game, to be honest. They realise that mid lane is just a farm fest. Shorter lane means that farming's quicker. So the Jhin and the Ziggs get a bit better time there. Top side, it's just a bully about. Obviously, grubbies are spawning. That's another reason why you bring the ADC up. As Caps and Humanoid do have TPs. Oscarin will TP back to top side. As grubs are started by FNATIC. Yikes, walking away from this. G2 are turning to the bot side. And they've walked over a ward. So Humanoid is well aware that he is being threatened. Deadly Flourish is going to tag up onto the Corki. The crash down will land pretty easily. The Ignite dropped. And the Mega Inferno Bomb is going to allow for Humanoid to secure first blood. This is a repeat gank from previous games where Mickey dies without G2 securing the first kill. A massive Deadly Flourish from Hansama is going to secure the kill. And then it's a 2-for-2 trade in the long run. But the massive benefactor of that play is going to be Hansama as he gets himself 2 quick easy kills for himself. Now, the other benefactor of all of that is Oscarin, securing for himself first Tower Blood. Isolated first Tower Blood. As G2, this is Razork trapped. Caps is TP'd in. Magnet Storm's going to be used. Slime Glide over the wall. And Maokai can't run. Flashes. Has got Phase Rush. But Mickey isn't afraid to dive this. The Sapling's going to deny it. And G2 bully Razork off the wave. The caveat of that is the overinvestment on topside map will result in turret plates going over to Humanoid. And so G2 overcommit to a play. Now, I do like what Jun is doing here. He realizes, hey, Broken Blade has got TP. So the potential collapse from G2 behind him was a potential play. So having some safety there is good. And I like what Jun was doing there, considering there's nothing really available for FNATIC on the topside map, considering they're escaping from Caps. Mid lane is just like Farm City. The 2 ADCs aren't really doing much but clearing waves. And bot side is just probably the best place to be, considering Humanoid is the furthest forward member of FNATIC. So it's a well executed play as Mickey's caught. That's the best way to word it. Yeah. Yikes. Anyway, Jun's hunting. Solar Flare is available. Isn't going to need it as Zenith Blade comes through. And now Broken Blade's looking to trade back. Humanoid doing a lot of damage there. Or chip damage to the Cassante. But it doesn't really stick as hard. Yike is on the bottom side. And that's not really expected as Jun forced Flash away. Clearly FNATIC expected the brand to be up towards Herald. And instead, G2 kind of bait him out. And this is massive. Long runners, Zenith Blade comes through as a TP, returning as Mickey kind of baits him in. The Soul Flare is going to be used to tag up on the Broken Blade, but Razork's on the wrong side of the map. He has no flash. The Deadly Flourish denies his escape route, and he is almost certainly going to fall. Yike, you need to land your abilities. The only one you get is a Seer, and that's enough to secure the kill. As G2, they kill off the enemy jungler. Well, we're already saying how potential flank plays could come through from G2. Mega Inferno Bomb, not going to be able to delete the full wave there. But yeah, that's a perfect example. Ward gets dropped, Broken Blade TP's in, once he sees the opportunity, and G2 punished, they capitalize. Good work by Mickey there, using the Magnet Storm to deny Razork any form of escape. And when I mean escape, it's pretty easy on the Maokai to get out of plays like that. You queue away the Rel before she can Magnet Storm, and then you just, then you just run for it, because you have Phase Rush. But in that situation, it wasn't enough. And Mickey and Broken Blade did a pretty good job to kind of stop any form of escape. So, Mickey, nice amount of ruby crystals there. Looks to be building up towards his war mugs in terms of items. And that typically will allow for this rel to be a little bit more aggressive. Jun presumably doing the same thing with the giant spell and ruby crystal in his arsenal, as both supports really don't care at this stage. Static Shiv online for the Jhin versus Ludent's Tempest for the Ziggs, and Broken Blade could be caught out here. Actuality, Razor Orc's the one that's going to be forced to flash away. G2, they're finding FNATIC in their own jungle now. They're starting to advance and creep their ward line forward. TP going to be invested here. FNATIC realize they can't give G2 soul point, as Jun going to be targeted. A massive crash down onto 4. The curtain's open, but the damage is already being done. Mickey's the first to fall, as on the bottom side to fight Oscar Rinnin. Gonna be deleted as he is shut down. Deadly Flourish lands, but Noah not going to be jumped on there. Hans was looking for the angle to get the autos, but he doesn't need to, as G2 turn towards this Drake and get themselves to soul point. Honestly, that fight really wasn't too much other than a massive crash down from Mickey. And yeah, the bounce house of damage that G2 have. The curtains open up, and while Hans really wanted to execute off Razork, he had to turn his attention to Oscar Rinnin, who was threatening the rest of his team. Simple as that. And the fact that he isn't the benefactor of the kill, does get the assist, he's fine. 2-0-1. A nice little bounty on his shoulders. And G2 having firm control of these objectives. The issue for them is they're behind in gold, so FNATIC's fighting always is going to be in their favor due to the extra combat gold. But if G2 are able to get some of these objectives, as Humanoid could be jumped on here, it's just going to burn through Broken Blade's health bar. There's actually a lot of interest right now on what's happening. Caps has got Rift Herald in his back pocket. I'm just watching FNATIC's positioning as they're trying to overload topside because they realize what G2 have done. Issue is Caps is elusive, joins up with his team, and G2 are turning their attention towards the mid lane tier 1. Herald's just going to waddle on up and charge on through. Does a decent chunk of damage, isn't able to secure it just yet. But FNATIC did well to respond to the play, as Baron is gonna spawn. And so, this dance of doom and gloom is gonna begin. FNATIC have got vision of the pit. So G2 can't do anything sneaky like they've kind of been trying to do with that Gwen in previous games. This game, they have got the Azir that can do similar things, but it's up to them to see if they can do that. Second items coming online here as IE picked up 4-hand Sama. And that fourth shot does a lot of damage. That's going to be mid lane tier 1 falling. That's kind of bad for FNATIC. Gives G2 easy access into this jungle. And already we're seeing Broken Blade taking advantage of that. Boop. Free easy. Thanks to the leash kids. As he steals away the Gromp. G2. Play safe. Trying to protect Caps, who is being collapsed down onto. Razork and Jun hovering, looking for the pick. Jun shows himself topside walking over the control ward in the Baron bit, so FNATIC aren't really able to capitalize on potential plays, as Broken Blade yet again at this stage of the game, that Renekton damage is minimal. Like, we just saw what you could do as Broken Blade just steps up, Q, auto, Frozen Heart proc, not Frozen Heart, Iceborne Gauntlet proc, and Oscar can't really step up. Now, taking stock of items, Warmog's Locket for the Maokai in this game is a drastic change up from that Liandry's in game number 3. And that's pretty important to note, because game 3, he had to be the only form of AP damage. This time, Horizon Focus, Luna's Tempest, and a build up towards probably Crypt Bloom for this Ziggs, and it's gonna be down to how reliable Noah is in landing this damage, in making it stick, because I'm yet to see the impact of this Ziggs. Now, Soul is on the table here for G2 if they want to go for it. Curtains are opened up, shots are being fired out. Razor gonna deny, slow it, and will easily secure this Drake. But G2, they've got inside track to this mid lane. Mega Inferno Bomb deletes the back wave of minions, but it isn't able to actually delete them as Broken Blade goes all pulling Jin to probably his own demise. Soul Flare is going to be used, but that is a dead Leona. On the bottom side of things, Razork is going to be isolated off here, as that's going to be a dead Maokai. Top side of the fight, Oscar in court, but Cassante gives himself over to this Renekton. Yike does damage, and somehow the Maokai got out alive. I thought he was dead. He was running straight into 2 members of G2 and somehow survived. But the kill score evens out, and FNATIC and G2 are in this weird power play that one team thinks they're winning, when in actual reality the other is winning. In this part of the game, it's a Baron dance. G2 firmly have control with vision around this pit as Jun on wards. Mickey's walking up to kind of stop him from going near to the Baron, but the issue is FNATIC have brought 4 members up here, and G2 can't really contest. FNATIC clear away these wards and start to ascertain control. G2 obviously dropping the little markers onto the wards that have been dropped, and FNATIC are just going to play this safe, as Razor's going to be caught out here. The Seer and the Burn going to land, but this Maokai quite tanky at this stage of the game, because it's very low damage coming out from this brand. You have to think Rylai's isn't necessarily a damage item, it's a slowing ability, and Liandry's is damage over time rather than full on burst. Once this brand gets his death cap, or maybe even malignant, he is certainly going to hurt these targets, and that is what we're kind of waiting on at this point. 2 items fully complete for Yike, and he has a 1.7k lead over his lane opponent. And bear in mind, the items that Razork's built, apart from Warmogs, are quite cheap. Locket's a cheap item, and that's the typical build for these tankier junglers, is to go for these cheaper support items, the likes of the Locket, that provide shielding for the rest of your team. So while you're being a frontline tank, you're also being your homie for your team. Jun, this is something I'm noticing. Jun playing on the edge this game, and Sarah's almost being caught out as Broken Blade bodyguarding this jungle access. Deadly Flourish gonna go wide here as Razork avoids it, and now G2. They've got control of the vision in this jungle. FNATIC gonna struggle to step up. Yike and Caps can two-man this Baron, but they're getting the vision wards out from FNATIC. The trinkets are on cooldown, and so G2 just go back to farming waves. A minute off on this Drake Soul if they want it. They don't need to contest it. They've got 3 more opportunities before Soul's given over, so they don't really need to care. So, and Salmon just stays mid farming. G2 take their reset, buy up some control wards, some vision, and I'm gonna look to step forward. The rosary beads picked up here for Yike, expecting to be targeted down here, and I like that kind of change up. Sure, it's not the damage you need on the brand just yet, but with the fact that Hansama is packing quite a bit of a punch with his 3 items, you don't need to be the main DPS just yet. You just need to survive to put the damage down and land a smite, and that is his goal in this game. Dragon is up, Soul on the table for G2. That's going to be Caps joining up with his team, TPing in, and that's a massive Pillar of Fire landing, and down goes Razork. The jungler of FNATIC is gone, and that is Soul gone. FNATIC on the full retreat. And that should be maybe Baron over to G2. The mid wave going to be cut open as Humanoid, going to be tagged by the curtains. Caps and Broken Blade on the chase. The soldiers get thrown forward as that is a massive Deadly Flourish to secure the pick off. Oscar in now being ran down. The Emperor's Divide goes wide, but G2, they find a massive fight for themselves, picking off 2 of the most important members of FNATIC, and now turning their eyes and their sight towards this Baron. FNATIC realize this is a do or die effort. Bro, Oscar in, TP's in, the health bars of FNATIC see full health. They're looking for the picks, but they're unable to get it. G2 walk out scot-free with the Baron. This game hasn't really spelt massive team fights. It's been the macro. It's been the control around areas that has defined how these games have gone. The one pick onto Razork has ballooned into Soul plus Baron for G2, and realistically speaking, this championship should be secured now with how in the grasp it is for G2. A nice 4k gold lead over FNATIC right now. And while it's not the most drastic of leads, you look at what's up and available for G2. Mid lane tier 2 has already been cracked open. Caps is prepping that wave, but the bot lane tier 2 is forfeit. That's a bit of gold into G2's back pocket. Caps utilizing his towers and also the cannon minion to start clipping away at this inhibitor tower. He's going to delete that freely as FNATIC engage onto Broken Blade. The damage is not enough to get the pick. Instead, as the curtains open, the Sterix Gauge, the Crash Down, the Magnet Storm, all of Mickey's abilities trying to set up for G2 to go forward. But Caps is in the base destroying the Nexus Tower unopposed, and that will fall. G2 are able to pick off Razork in the backline as Humanoid. He dashes forward, isolating himself in front of Hansama, who just deletes him from where he stands. G2 with the Baron in their back pocket, see the Nexus Tower. Caps is already destroying it. And the base of FNATIC is well and truly opened up. Broken Blade goes all out and he kills off Jun as Noah forced to flash back to the fountain. G2 unrelenting in their conquest for trophies this year. Defeat FNATIC in the season finals. It was not the cleanest of series by any statement. It was probably the closest final we've had in years since probably 2019. But in the end, G2 take down FNATIC in what could be seen as the best G2 FNATIC in a long time. I certainly enjoyed this one. It wasn't the best League of Legends that I've seen this year, but it wasn't the worst, and you could definitely say there was a lot of caution on either team's side. G2 wanting to have all of the EU trophies was a massive, thing for them. And I'm going to be honest, if we look at this series on GOL, there's a lot to discuss. Namely, the fact that, firstly, a lot of late games. I mean, longest series of the season finals. But you look at this in terms of stats throughout the entire series. Razor didn't really get to do his carry performances. This split or year, he's had a couple of carry games, but even then, it's typically frontline he's been playing. And that's just season finals. This series, only 2 kills. He had a high KP. But in actuality, his impact probably wasn't the most needed. I think first 2 games, Oscarinin outperformed in all senses of the word in the top lane. But it was just, I think simple errors caused the issues for FNATIC that G2 punished. It amazes me that in the end, the kill score was actually incredibly close in total. I thought FNATIC would have blown G2 out the water considering what we looked at throughout this series, but no. 1 kill in it, or 2 kills in it. But the big killer was towers and how G2 played sides. It's just too hard to be matched. Drake taking as well. Essentially G2 just played the perfect objective game. I mean, that game was not anything special. It was even until about, that's the best way to word it, even till about 27 minutes, and then G2 won a fight and won the game. And FNATIC just couldn't really answer. Do I think that the drafting was done well? I think drafting wise, the series was fairly standard. But I think that overall, the fact that G2 got to play blue side multiple times in this series just really killed it for me. I think here, game 4, FNATIC should have went to blue, forced G2 back onto red, and stick with it. Because I genuinely think that the FNATIC formula on blue, Smolder Ezreal, were just so dominant because the bans realistically stayed the same throughout the series from G2. Vi always was banned. MF on red side was a staple for both teams. And then Maokai, the other one that was banned by G2 on Red. So basically what we learned is, I think FNATIC misplayed side select, and that's it. I think that we could have had a game 5 if FNATIC chose better on sides. And also I think better drafting, in terms of the fact that you could have honestly have gone Sedge. I think Sedge would have been more proactive than the Maokai, because it provided more heavy engage and the resistances needed. I don't like the fact that Corki became this like god champion when he's not. Let's be honest. The Smolder was having a better time than the Corki, but the fact that priority was given to him just made no sense. So yeah, that's my take on it all. I'm probably completely wrong, but in my opinion, FNATIC staying on blue, or red, killed them, and G2 got lucky in some aspects of that. But overall, they played better. They punished the mistakes made, controlled the map so much more effectively than FNATIC. So they outright did deserve to win, but we could have had something more. And the game 1 was clearly the telltale sign that we could have had more. Anyway, regardless of that, I'm done for tonight. LEC is done for the year. Worlds is all that remains. I'll see you for the first predictions for that. And then we'll be live streaming every game once again for Worlds. See you guys then. Peace out.